Okay, that's perfect. We are officially on. Okay, so let's get started, folks. Thank you so much for making your time for our MLOps specialization program. MLOps specialization program, the course demo. Officially welcome to everyone. Yep. As I mentioned, make your promise. Make sure you stay till end of this particular program. Hardly just 2.5 hours, which can able to help you to make your careers more better, right? So why don't we spend 2.5 hours here? Definitely yes, right? So let's get started. Thank you so much. So I will be a host. So more about me. So this session is going to be for next 2.5 hours. Okay, 2 to 2.5 hours. Yes, just make a promise. That's it. So let's get started. Let me just start navigating my slides here. Perfect. So let's talk about me. Who is exactly this Sharad Kumar, right? Like, let me just turn on my camera for a few seconds. I believe, yes. Yeah, perfect. You can able to see me. Hey, folks. Yeah, this is Sharad from Citron Technologies. So I will be your trainer. I will be your host. I will be a mentor, whatever you think, for this next 2 to 2.5 hours. So let's get started. So we are from organization called Citron Technologies. Anything that you imagine in terms of AI, generative AI, anything related to the cloud, we are definitely the best peoples outside in the market. There's no doubt about it. So anything related to AI. So personally, I have trained more than 5,000 plus working professionals, obviously, to make their strong career in their AI industry. So let me just help you for this next 2.5 hours, obviously, to know more about what is this MLOps is all about and how you can able to make your career into that. Okay, so let's get started without wasting a much of a time. So I don't want to I will be turning off my camera. Maybe you don't want my face throughout this meeting. So let's get started. Perfect, folks. So here are the 3 reasons why you need to stay till end of this particular program. So the value that you're going to get. So obviously I will be helping you understand what is the world of AI looks like and where MLOps really plays, where MLOps really comes into the position and how you can be part of it. That's a very important aspect. Obviously the folks who are going to stay till end of this program can able to download the free ebooks. But more than that, you can able to enjoy the awesome demo that I have arranged on a cloud platform. And the more important than that, so how easy it is, obviously, if you follow the methods that I'm going to mention, how easy it's going to be transforming your career into AI. So let's get started. Okay, so these are the 3 important highlights of this program. So make sure you stay till end of this program. We discuss about all these 3 different highlights. Okay, so obviously, so you don't want to miss any pieces here. So make sure you stay till end of this program. So we'll be talking about what is this MLOps is all about, right? And obviously the $1 million question. So what it takes to master MLOps, that's what exactly we're going to discuss. And what is after MLOps? So making your career into MLOps, right? So we'll be discussing about the career opportunities in the field of MLOps. So let's get started. Perfect, saying that, here we go. Yeah, obviously the beautiful picture. So how this picture is related to MLOps? Obviously, there is some relationship. But let me just ask some questions, folks. Yeah, let's see who is going to answer this right. Okay. So, what do you think this picture is about? So, what do you think you can find from this particular picture? I will give hardly a couple of seconds. Go ahead and try to describe this particular picture in your own way, how you can able to describe it. So, what do you find in this picture? What kind of an objects do you think that you can able to recognize from this picture? So, go ahead and use your chat window. Let's see who is going to answer it first, right? So here we go. The answers are pouring in. So let's see who is going to give the right answer. Obviously, a lot of people are saying it's a dog park, right? Jesus says it's a park. Vaishali says it's a park, right? Vaishali says, yeah, it's a park. Navin says, one fine day. What an awesome description, Navin. I love it. Perfect. So Sudhakar says it's a dark park. Vacation, Sudeep Kumar. Awesome. I like that. Okay, so obviously everyone we would like to spend our day in this particular program, isn't it? Picnic, Rohit, that's awesome. I love it, Rohit. Perfect. So we all know this is a picture of a park, right? So we know this is a beautiful picture of a park. Yeah, we would like to just spend the entire day over there. So we just want to let's do the work over there itself, right? So why do we need to sit in office? Anyway, so let's come to the topic. So we know this is a beautiful picture of a park. So we know there are a lot of trees and there is a path where we can walk. And so definitely there is a peoples. Yeah, there are humans. There is a men, there is a women, and there are dogs here. Obviously, there's a different breeds of dogs, right? And there's a dog which is carrying a ball in his mouth. Perfect. We know this is a beautiful picture of a park. Great, but that's not my question, honestly. So what is my question then? The question is, you all just mentioned it's a park, this is a dog, there's a grass, there's a tree, right? But My question is, how do you know this is a picture of a park? How do you know this is a picture of a dog? Who taught you this is a dog? Why can't this be an elephant or a lion? So why can't this be a maybe some kind of a giraffe? Yeah, we know it's a human, it's us. But question is, who taught you that, right? But let's proceed to the next slide. Let's see. Let's try to analyze that. Obviously, so here we have Jesu says object detection, Rohit says train. That's awesome. Yeah, we are going too much technical. Perfect. Yes, we will do. So, but my question is a bit different. Let's say, what if we take the same exact picture, the beautiful picture that we had? So, what if I go ahead and display this picture to this newborn baby? Do you think this newborn baby could able to recognize the same exact things that you could recognize right now? Could baby say this is a picture of a park, there's a dog, there's a man, there's a woman, there's a tree? Definitely not, right? So let's say consider that this baby is hardly 1 year old. So this baby could able to recognize a mother and father, but hardly the baby doesn't know anything else, right? But what if we go ahead and display the same exact picture maybe to the grown-up kid? So do you think this kid could able to recognize this a picture of a park? Definitely, right? When we ask, what is a picture? What is this picture? What do you know about this picture to these kids? They say this is a picture of a park where I would like to play with my dog, right, with my ball and a bat or whatever it is, right? But what if I go ahead and show the same exact picture to these grown-up adults? I mean, I'm talking about you folks, right? So if I go ahead and display the picture, this picture to you, obviously you can give a very detailed description, isn't it? You can say this is a beautiful picture of a park. It's a fine day where I can spend my time over there with my dog, with my, maybe you have a wife, your kids. What an awesome description you can give, right? So obviously, how this is really related to what we're talking about, machine learning or MLOps that I'm talking about, right? So obviously, what we today talk about, AI, which stands for artificial intelligence, right? So we are the examples of that, obviously, right? So consider, obviously we are a biological machines, yes. So we born with an empty brain. Logically, it's not empty brain, but we have some genes, etc. But what happens? We don't have a sense of a world, what the world looks like, etc. Right? So we started learning from our kid, right? We started learning from parents. They are the best teachers. Then we go for a school. I mean, we started walking, we started recognizing people, we started making friends, we started learning scripts, English, right? Hindi, maybe German, French, whatever it is, right? We started learning physics, chemistry, biology, right? So obviously, then eventually we learn and we get better in that, right? So obviously, in case if I'm putting the growth cycle of your entire human being, the knowledge that we learn eventually grows up, right? Each and every day we learn something and we get better in that, including today, isn't it? Yes, today, what are exactly you learning? Obviously, you're learning how you can be part of the world AI industry, how you can able to rule this world by using our learning AI, right? So obviously we are talking about how you can able to position yourself into AI industry in terms of MLOps. So that's what exactly we are learning today. And again, so the magic is by learning so much data, so much things, you can able to make a decisions for yourself, isn't it? You can able to make a predictions, you can able to predict what's going to happen in the future, what you need to take an action, because you so far took an action to stay till end of this program. I believe you might, but obviously we could able to make a decisions, we could able to predict what's the best, what I can do. You can make a predictions. Yes. So that is nothing but what we are today talking about AI, right? So just imagine the way we are learning a data and way we could able to get better in that particular data. So today what human beings are trying to replicate, the same exact things what we have learned, right? The same data that we have learned, right? So we are trying to teach this dumb machines. Yes, as simple as that. Yes. Hardly this machines understand zeros or ones, right? Just this machines understands numbers, right? So today we are using these machines, computers, CPUs, GPUs, whatever it is, what are the different kind of machines that we're talking about. So we are trying to teach the same exact data, right, to these machines, and we want these machines to make decisions behalf of us. We want these machines to make some predictions, generate some content, what we call it as generative AI for an example, right? So let's talk about a very simple example, isn't it, today, right? Let's get started. Let's say when I'm talking about AI stands for the final end product, artificial intelligence, right? ChatGPT is an AI, right? So, so today we are using a lot of AI systems, AI projects throughout our life. We're using ChatGPT, you're using a lot of AI services within your mobile phones, from your emails, etc. Right? So we know it's all about taking the huge amount of data, the data that we have already learned, we are teaching the same exact data to these machines. Let's talk about a very simple example. Let's say I'm going to take let's say some CSV file. Let's say I have some CSV file. Okay, it can be any kind of a data. I have CSV file here. Great. what kind of a data I have in the CSV file. Let's say I have a 3 years old data of my electricity consumption of my home. Let's say you have a home, you have an office, whatever it is. Let's say I put a lot of sensors in your home. I collect amount of electricity that you consume. Let's say how much electricity your washing machine, water geyser, any electrical and electronic appliances that you have in your home, right? So I collect all this data. So what we call it as historical data, right? So let's imagine I have around 30,000 data points in it. Okay, I have around 30,000 data points to 30,000 rows that I'm talking about. So what is next? I'm going to take this data. I'm going to teach this data to a machine. A machine can be a CPU, it can be a GPU, or it can be any high-end server that you can find in a cloud. It can be your own PC, or it can be edge devices like this. Okay. So the goal is simple. I want to teach this data to a machine. So where we are learning the data. So what these machines are going to learn? So these machines are going to learn the pattern from that particular data. What do you mean by pattern? Let's say I have around 3 years old data, right? So this data has a patterns in how you consume an electricity. Let's say this data has an information like how your electricity consumption looks like in spring, in summer, maybe in a monsoon, right? So what happens here, your machine tries to learn that pattern and it produces something called machine learning model. Yep, a model is, just imagine some kind of a brain. It has all the knowledge of your data. So this machine learning model is going to be part of final end product that you're talking about. It's not an end product, but it's going to be part of final end product, right? So let's talk about a different use case, right? So now we have this machine learning model. Okay. So now what I can do with this machine learning model? So I can ask this machine learning model to make some simple forecast. I can ask this machine learning model, can you just help me to predict what will be my electricity bills going to look like for the next 6 months, right? So obviously this machine learning model can able to help you make a predictions saying that how your first month bill is going to look like, second month bill, blah, 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 how the 6 months bills are going to look like. So machine learning model that you're trying could able to predict what bills probably you might pay for the next 6 months. So this can be one of a use case, right? Or let's think about some other different use cases. Let's say we talk about something called computer vision. So let's say I will take bunch of pictures of cats, bunch of pictures of dogs. So I will teach the difference between a cat and a dog to my machine. So then again, we will produce a machine learning model. This model has an information how the cat looks like and how a dog looks like. Okay. So then what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a camera in front of my machine. So then I'm going to put a cat in front of my machine. Let's imagine this is a cat. Yeah, a quite beautiful cat. So now what's going to happen? My machine learning model is going to produce an output saying that there is a cat which is standing in front of your door. So maybe you have a dog which is standing in front of your door. So what we're calling it as computer vision, right? Otherwise, let's talk about obviously the hottest topic today. What we're talking about, generative AI, right? We call it as Gen AI or generative AI, Chat GPT, right? Chat GPT is a product. But what is this generative AI, right? So let's say consider that I want to create my own generative AI model. So when I'm talking about generative AI today, we talk about a lot of different kind of machine learning models. A machine learning model which generates a text, right? We are talking about text to text models. So there are text to image models, right? If you input a text which can able to generate what we're talking about images. If you input a text, a models can able to generate a videos. If you input a text, a model can generate an audios. Endless, isn't it? Yes. So generative AI models are again, they are what we call it as again, they are kind of a machine learning models. Hardly we are talking about their deep learning models. Let's say if you want to train this large language models or generative AI models, so consider that an organizations like OpenAI, right? Just imagine to create a large language model, what we're calling it as LLM, right? Which is a text generation model. Just imagine, for a reason we call it as LLM because it's called large language models. Why we call it as large? Because it's been trained with a huge amount of data in the internet. Just imagine OpenAI might have literally scrapped the complete internet. I mean, they might have got the amount of data. Just imagine amount of data that you can get from Wikipedia, amount of data they can get it from public forums, maybe from books, scanned books, maybe from GitHub. Just imagine how much data they can get. They might have trained a machine learning model. So now this machine learning models understands how to generate a text and how to answer your questions. So now you go ahead and ask any question. So can you tell me a bedtime story for my kids? it does the job. It go ahead and generates a text for you, right? So what we today calling it as generative AI. So we do understand so what it takes to build what is exactly a machine learning is all about, right? So it's all about taking bunch of data that you have, and we go ahead and teach this data to a machine. A machine can be a computer, CPU, GPU, anything, and this machine understands a pattern from this data, and you can able to use this machine learning model to generate an output, right? What are the problems that you can able to solve? Just imagine there are endless of use cases that you can solve today in the organizations. But what is the question? But the question is, okay, what is MLOps but, right? So let's get started. Let's try to understand what's a typical workflow would look like for creating a successful machine learning model. What do you mean by that? So machine learning model is part of a job here, which we are talking about, which is going to be part of final end product, but there are a lot of processes attached within it, right? So let's try to understand what does a typical workflow look like, right? A step-by-step approach would look like to create a minimal workflow for creating a machine learning model. So here I'm talking about what is a typical workflow, right? So not the complete end-to-end, but as a minimal bare prerequisites, right? In order to deploy your models to the production, to put your AI into the production. So let's say we are talking about what? How you put your AI into the plates of your customer, right? That's where MLOps comes. We'll discuss in detail. Okay, now here is a quite simple example. So we do understand, like a best example of AI is us, right? So you remember that. So you just think, let's say we consume data in many different ways, isn't it? Correct? So consider that we consume a data through our eyes, right? Right now you're seeing my screen, you're consuming visually what is there in front of my screen. That's a one way of consuming a data. And let's say we're talking about, yeah, so you can able to hear, isn't it? Hello, hello, hi. Yeah, you can able to hear my voice, isn't it? Yes, you're consuming a data through our ears, right? So that's a one form of you consuming data. So we can consume a data through smelling things, right? So you can smell what's happening in your kitchen. Probably most of you folks might be in your home. So maybe someone in your home might be preparing a biryani, whether it's a Delhi biryani or a Hyderabad biryani. So we could able to classify that, right? So by touching things, by feeling things, you can consume a data. So in similar fashion, let's say a machine can also consume a various different forms of data. So consider that your data can be in the form of pictures. It can be documents like CSV file or a JSON or text document that we're talking about, right? So what is the workflow here? So how do we build this AI? What's the steps? Obviously, the first step is getting the raw data. Okay, so then comes the next step in a workflow, what we call it as a data preparation. So what is data preparation? Yeah. So data preparation is, if I want to give a best example for data preparation, is something what's happening in your kitchen right now. So what we do in a kitchen, let's say, if you want to prepare your favorite recipe of your food, right? So let's say you want to prepare biryani for an example. So what we do first, we go to the market, isn't it? We go ahead and we go ahead and bring some vegetables. We buy a lot of spice. Maybe you might buy some meat, etc. So then what we do, we come back to our home. We started cleaning those vegetables and meat, whatever it is. Then we put some oil. We started putting ingredients, and we started preparing a favorite recipe of a biryani that you want to cook, isn't it? So similar to that, when we are talking about the first step, what we call it as data preparation is similar to that. See what happens, a raw data which is coming from your customers, the raw data will have a lot of garbages in it. So the data might not be clean. So we need to clean the data. So you might be having a CSV file. Just imagine some of the rows in your CSV file would be empty. It hurts your machine when you're teaching empty data. So what we do here, this is where we are talking about someone called data engineers or data scientists comes into the picture, who take this data, they clean it, they prepare it, they transform it, right? So this is where a data preparation is about. So then comes, we are talking about something called experimentation, right? So what do you mean by experimentation, right? So what happens in the next step? So we will be using an IDs like, let's say it can be a Jupyter notebooks or VS Code. So we are aware about these IDs, right? So this is where someone called data scientist comes into the picture. So they write a lot of code here. So what do you mean by writing a code? So obviously, so let's say what is the goal? At the end of the day, we want to take bunch of data and I want to teach this data to a machine, right? So obviously I need to specify where is my data is coming from, whether your data is coming from your PC, whether it's coming from some cloud storage, some databases. So, and again, then comes what? The goal is to teach this data to a machine. A machine can be a CPU, whether it is a GPU, you need to specify that. That's why here comes your data scientist. They go ahead and use these IDEs. They mention everything in a code, right? So once they started executing the code, they do something called experimentation. So have you wondered why data scientist has been called as a data scientist anytime? See, who will, so consider for what kind of a people we do call them as scientist? Someone who does experiments, right? Someone who does an experiments in a lab, but data scientist does an experiments in his laptop. That's a difference. So because what, let's say that the concept of taking a data and teaching a data to a machine is what we call it as an experiment, because your data scientist, they cannot come up with the best quality model in a one single shot. So what they do experimentation. So they go ahead and do multiple trials and errors. Basically, we're talking about experiment number one, experiment number two, experiment number n. They might conduct multiple different experiments in order to come up with the best quality ML model, a model which can give the good results for you, right? Not the fake results, right? So data scientist conducts various different experiments. And now let's imagine they come up with the best version of a model. That means they have first version of a model. What happens next? Here comes what we call it as model registries. Okay, so what is this model registries? How this model registry is going to help us? So model registries are basically a tools that helps you to manage the different versions of your machine learning models. What do you mean by that? See, consider that throughout the life cycle of you building a machine learning models, so you don't produce only one version of a model. Do you think we will produce only one version of a model? No, we do produce multiple different versions of models, right? So in order to manage these different versions of models, there are dedicated tools. We call it as model registries. So in this model registries, we can go ahead and version different versions of models. Great. So then what? So now I have a model, whether the job is done. No. Next step, we talk about deployment. So this is where we want to take the best performing model. Let's say we have version one. So now I want to go ahead and deploy this model to the production. So what do you mean by deploying this model to the production? See, consider that every organization might have different requirements, where they want to deploy the models might vary. Someone who want to deploy the models on top of AWS cloud, Azure cloud, GCP cloud, into Dockers, there is something called Kubernetes, a serverless, right? So here is an example. Let's say I'm deploying my models into Docker infrastructure. Let's say I deploy my first version of a model. So then comes obviously the final piece of a puzzle. We are talking about your developers, your front-end developers, right? Someone who is going to create a client-side application, right? Someone, they're going to build web services. It can be in web apps, it can be in Android apps. So where we can go ahead and access this deployed models through this web applications, for an example, right? So this is how the typical workflow looks like. A bare minimal prerequisites, but this is not enough. There's a more automation that you need, right? So we do understand what is machine learning is all about right now. So machine learning is all about studying about complex algorithms, complex mathematical models. We teach these complex mathematical models to your computers where they improve progressively on the specific task, right? So it's all about teaching some complex math. And once your machine understands a complex math, it can able to make some decisions and predictions for your future. And we do understand. So let's say this is where your data scientist comes into the picture. They use data scientists or data engineers. They use various different programming languages to build the model, right? It can be Python, JavaScript, C, C++. So you can use various different programming languages today. So this is a side of understanding what is machine learning, but still the question is unanswered. So what is MLOps? Saying that, let's get started with our program. Let's try to understand what is MLOps is all about. So MLOps stands for machine learning operations. Yes, as we're talking about, MLOps comes under the operation side of an AI, right? So how do you put your AI to the plates of your customer? That's what exactly MLOps is all about, putting in a very simple term. Let's get started. Let's discuss about that. Okay, here we go. So before we go ahead and understand what is MLOps is all about, definitely learning a random technology outside of the market doesn't help, doesn't make sense, right? So if you go ahead and, let's say if you're going to learn a quantum technology today, quantum technology doesn't have its own career, right? As of right now, right? But we are talking about machine learning or AI, MLOps, it does. But understanding what is the current state, right? Understanding what exactly every organization in this world is heading towards. So understanding that would make sense, right? Then only you can able to take an action. That's what exactly this slide is about. So let's discuss about what's actually every organization is doing, right? So we are talking about last decade, today, and what's going to happen end of this year or maybe a couple of next years that we're talking about, right? So let's go back to last 10 years ago, right? So yeah, here we go. maybe you can come out of your home. I have a time travel machine waiting for your, waiting near your home. I mean, door. Yeah, I'm just kidding. Let's go back to last 10 years ago. So let's do some time travel. Let's try to understand what every organizations are doing last 10 years ago. I'm talking about, let's say before 2015, right? So you consider that every IT organizations has had a lot of data sitting in their databases, storage platforms. They have a lot of data. But you know what they started doing? They started building what we call it as machine learning models last 10 years ago, before that. But the problem is they are building models, but they are not operationalizing that models. What do you mean by operationalizing? They're not getting their models to the plates of their customer. That means they are not making any money. They are not deploying their models to the production, right? It's not solving anyone's problem. Basically, they are experimenting. So that's a situation of last 10 years, right? They're not operating. That means last 10 years ago, there's no, what we're talking about, more MLOps jobs. There are, but not more. But let's talk about today. And let's talk about end of this year. So already there are 53% of organizations, they have transformed their POCs. I mean, the models they are building to the production already, right? So for an average, it takes around 9 months for every organization to reach to that particular position. And you will notice almost end of this year, we are already in the end of this year, you will see that 75% of organizations, they already transformed they have started transforming their POCs into production. So what do you mean by that? 75% of organizations, they started shifting their models to the production. But the question is, what it takes to move your model or operationalizing your model. So you need some kind of an automation. That's what exactly we call it as MLOps, right? So probably you might have heard about something called DevOps for a simple comparison. So DevOps and MLOps are completely different. Obviously, we'll talk about it. But you know, DevOps is all about building an automation to deliver your software to the production, right? There is someone called software developer. You know that he is someone who writes lot of code. And there is someone called DevOps engineers who take that software, they build it, test it, pack it, and they deliver it to the production. So that's for the software. And today, every organizations are trying to productionizing AI. So is that true? Do you believe it? No. Yes, obviously, right? So you tell me what we hear more in your tech, obviously in your offices, what your colleagues talks about, what Instagram, tech blogs talks about. What every organization is doing is AI, right? Every organization is trying to implement AI into their organization, whether they are coming from technical or non-technical background. That means AI is trying to reach all the corners of this world. Great. But who actually helps every organization to put AI into the plates of their customer across the world? Someone called MLOps engineers. MLOps is all about building an automation, right? So let's discuss what is MLOps is all about. So MLOps is a practice, it's a collaboration and communication between, let's say, different stakeholders who are part of building these AI projects. Who is part of building AI projects? We're talking about data scientists, operational professionals, which we are talking about an MLOps engineers, data engineers. There are a lot of people. Data engineers are there, data scientists is there, MLOps engineers are there, right? So the collaboration and communication between them. So when we are talking about implementing this MLOps practices, could able to increase the quality and simplify the management process of how your organization is building, training, evaluating, and deploying your models to the production. So deploying means putting your AI to the plates of your customer, as simple as that. So MLOps is all about learning how to build an automation to deliver any kind of a machine learning model to the production. So it can be any classical machine learning models to what we're talking about, deep learning models. What do you mean by that? So it can be any computer vision models or deep learning models that we're talking about, like Gen AI models to the production. That's where MLOps comes into picture. So now you know who puts AI into the plates of your customer. It's nothing but MLOps engineers, right? So let's get started. Let's try to understand what is this MLOps motivation looks like in a high level view, right? So when we're talking about MLOps as a discipline that sits intersection between, let's say, various different domains in the organization, right? So it's basically, let's say, the intersection between what we call it as machine learning, yes, DevOps and data engineering. So what we have, MLOps, the mixture of, yeah, 2 plates of machine learning, 3 plates of DevOps, and 5 plates of data engineering. Oh, here we go. You have an MLOps. Yep, as simple as that. So as we're talking about, let's say, this intersection of practices when they're coming together, it really drives a value in how we build, deliver, and manage your machine learning models. So obviously, if any organization want to implement such kind of a discipline without having the right people's right technology and right process in a place, you cannot implement MLOps practices, right? So saying that, first, let us do one thing. Let's go ahead and understand what are the challenges in implementing MLOps first of all, right? Let's get started. Let me have some water. Okay, let's talk about, let's say we know that in the process of we creating and managing a machine learning workflows, we definitely ran into a lot of different challenges, right? So we know that machine learning model building involves multiple steps like data preparation, model training, model evaluation. So let's try to understand what we do in these individual steps. But the problem is, not only we have these steps, there really lot goes into, let's say, stitching things, different things together. Say I want to stitch data preparation to model training to model deployment, right? For an example, let's say we'll get started with data preparation. So what we do in a data preparation? So in a data preparation job, right? So this is where we have a steps might contain, let's say, one to many tasks, like taking a raw data from your customers and eventually transforming this data into training data and testing data. We split the data. We don't teach all the data to a machine. No. Then how do you test your machine? So we keep some data aside and we teach maximum data to your machine, and we use that testing data, what we call, which we kept it aside to test your machine. That's what exactly we do in a data preparation. So splitting a data. So then comes in a model training step. So model training step might have some additional steps inside your training process. So whether you're doing a single model training or whether you might be doing some different experiments, we talked about what data scientist does, experimentation, right? Hyperparameter tuning, because you cannot come up with the best quality model in one single shot. So you will be going ahead and performing what we call it as hyperparameter tuning. So once we're done with data preparation, so here your data scientist does different experiments. He might come up with different versions of models. Then he decides, okay, the best performing model, and that could be the model which goes to the production. So now let's talk about what we do in the model deployment step. In a model deployment step, you might have only one step in a workflow, or it could have many tasks underneath it, obviously. Let's say for an example, once you have your machine learning model, which is part of final end product, okay, so then we will go and deploy it to the production. No, we don't do that. So we might have different environments where we want to deploy the model, whether you want to deploy your model to the staging environment, whether you want to deploy your model to the production environment. Even though when you're deploying these models to different environments, maybe you need some additional control inside where you are deploying these models. So perfect. Let's talk about. So now I have the first version of a model. Perfect. So now in order to deploy this model, first I will go ahead and deploy this model to what we call it as a staging environment. A staging environment is an exact copy of production, but it is not production. But this is where I deploy my first version of model. Okay, we deploy to staging for whom? Obviously, this is for your internal team, right? So what happens, your internal team, maybe you're a bunch of data scientists, bunch of MLOps engineers, they go ahead and do further testing. They see how this model is working, whether it is working as per data scientist interpretations. If data scientists or MLOps engineers, are they satisfied with the quality and the performance of a model in a staging environment? If they're satisfied, then we will go ahead and deploy the same version of model to the production. So now once I deploy this model to the production, this is where I put my model to the plates of your customers, where they can able to started using your models. They can get benefited for that. So yes, we deploy the models to different environments. So not just this, but I need some additional control, right? I just don't want to deploy this model directly to the production. So maybe I need some approval process, right? So let's say this is where, let's say if you want to go ahead and deploy this model to the staging environment, or you want to deploy this model to what we call it as a production environment, I just don't go ahead and directly deploy it. So let's say once your model is ready to be deployed, so here comes maybe some senior MLOps folks or senior data scientist folk. He come and just check the quality of a model that you have trained. He will check your job. And if he is satisfied with the quality of a model, so then he will be go ahead and clicking this approval button, which go ahead and deploys the model to staging as well as a production environment. So there are a lot of different steps. There are a lot of different dependencies has to work together, right? To ultimately build this and build out something that provides, let's say, iteration across the life cycle. And more than that, and to provide what we call it as an end-to-end traceability, right? To track the models that you have trained in a, let's say, model development environments, and where are you deploying, whether you're deploying it to a staging environment or production environment, right? So we need to have end-to-end traceability, which we are talking about monitoring, right? So as an MLOps engineers, you'd be just not focusing on building an automation here, you'd be also focusing on monitoring this entire infrastructure. Yes, as an MLOps engineer, you'd be also focusing on, yes, deploying the infrastructure as well. So you will be deciding what kind of infrastructure an organization needed. You deploy the infrastructure, you create an automation, and you also monitor the entire infrastructure, the models that you have built, etc. Right? So these are some major challenges that we do have, right? So saying that, let's get started now. Obviously, sometimes, let's say you might have heard about DevOps, definitely. But the question is whether DevOps and MLOps are they same? They're not, but there are some similarities. That's what exactly we're talking about. So far, we discussed about the MLOps challenges, right? So we do have some similarities, right? So the way we have a challenges in operationalizing your machine learning models has some common things comparing with your software production as well. Software production, I mean, we are talking about DevOps. In DevOps, we use, let's say, techniques like CI/CD practices, source and version control practices. So those practices are pretty much common in MLOps as well. Yes. So we use the same kind of CI/CD tools, source and version control tools for MLOps as well. But okay, here we go. But you know, a lot of times the CI/CD tools, we'll talk about CI/CD. So a lot of times, the CI/CD tools are not necessarily built for machine learning separately. So the way we use CI/CD pipelines, our source version control tools, will be different in MLOps. So in reality, what happens, you might use some different combinations of tools and integrations. Sometimes there might be some purpose-built data preparation tool, model training tool, and model deployment tool. So all this, so all these steps can be complicated and challenging to stitch different things together. And more complicated than this, there is no a golden pipeline that you can follow. So what do you mean by there is no golden pipeline that you can follow? Consider that if I draft you the architecture right now, right? So not every organization, they cannot follow that same workflow, the architecture, the methods that I suggest, because it, requirements for technical implementation for your organizations can be different. Your organization structure can be different. The tools you might need to use might be vary. Maybe there is an organization who want to use AWS, someone want to use Azure, there some organizations want to use GCP. And there might be organizations who don't use any cloud, they want to use open source tools, right? And there might be organizations who might use multi-cloud, right? So saying that, so now let us try to understand what is so much common here. The steps and core components that I'm going to recommend throughout this program or throughout our MLOps specialization program will be same across different machine learning workflows, right? So let's talk about few here. We are talking about source and code versioning, tracking and versioning your data, model artifact versioning, and model versioning. What do you mean by that? See, in order to get started, in order to get some good idea about MLOps, why don't we discuss about the story? Yeah, not a bedtime story, but so yeah, a very interesting story. Let's discuss about that. 1 second, let me have some water. Let's do one thing. Let's go back to 2020. Yeah, again, we'll do some time travel. Let's go to year 2020. Okay. Let's see who are we going to meet in 2020. In 2020, we're meeting someone called data scientist. What he does. So obviously, a data scientist here in 2020, this data scientist is actually building a machine learning model for theater owners, right? I'm talking about theater owners where we go out and watch a movie, right? So, but what this data scientist has done, he has not implemented any kind of MLOps practices, no automation, no monitoring, nothing, right? So here comes the thing, right? So let's say, but this particular data scientist has promised this particular client saying that this model is going to completely work fine for next 3 years without any problem, right? That's what exactly the client has, I mean, the data scientist has promised to the client. But what happened? This model got failed in next couple of months, right? So what could be the problem? Because what we're talking about, this is a year of 2020. What happened in 2020, right? So that's the year. So basically where COVID hit the market, definitely, right? So what happened when the COVID hit the market? What happens? Here comes, let's say, the behavior of your customers started changing, right? So at the end of the day, your customers or your data, right? So what happens? People who are going for theaters to watch movie, they gradually stop going for theaters, gradually, not immediately. So here, for that particular reason, the model actually failed. So here comes the major problem. A data scientist couldn't able to monitor the performance of a model. So for that particular reason, the model got failed, right? So this is, and then comes, let's say we are talking about, let's say what happened during the COVID and post COVID as well, right? So let's say what happened during the COVID, right? During the, let's say COVID, we had a lockdown, right? So during the lockdown, we completely stopped going for theaters, right? But you know what happened during the COVID lockdown? We started watching more movies. Going for theaters has been stopped completely, but we watching movies got increased. Why? Because of OTTs. So a lot of OTT platforms are skyrocketed at that time. There are new OTTs born at that time. So we started subscribing to all the kind of OTTs because we have a lot of time to spend. We started watching more movies. And you know what happening today? Let's forget about COVID. Let's talk about today. So what's happening today? So there is a small, let's say there is a small number of, I mean, there is a drop in small number of people who are going for theaters every day. I mean, so we don't go for theaters very regularly today, because if I wait for next 13, let's say 15 to 30 days, I can watch the same exact movie in a OTT, like Netflix or whatever it is, right? So you can see there is a changes in the customer behavior, right? Your customers are your data. The biggest problem is here the data scientist didn't monitor the quality of a model that he has deployed in a production, right? I'm not talking about just monitoring the model, the complete infrastructure he might have deployed, right? So that could be the reason, one of the reason why the model has been failed in a production, right? So then comes, we did talked about, let's say, a three different behavior of your customers, right? So your customers are your data at the end of the day. So during COVID, let's say before COVID, during COVID, and after COVID, let's say we are talking about three different behaviors of your customers, correct? So what happens here? So that means there is a changes in your customer behavior. And again, you have a three different versions of your data, right? Before COVID and during COVID and after COVID. So here comes, your data scientist didn't use any kind of data versioning tools in order to version a data. Yes. You might have heard about source and code versioning. Yes, like GitHub, you might have heard about it. So those are the tools. Still, we do use it in MLOps as well to version your source code, to version your infrastructure as a code. Yes, but we do use dedicated tools for versioning a data. So there are dedicated tools that we can use. So like DVC for an example, Git large files, something on AWS, something on Azure. And then comes, so we do understand that throughout the life cycle of building any machine learning projects, we don't produce only one version of a model. We produce different versions of machine learning models. So again, so this is where it is mandate to use what we call it as model registries. So model registries are dedicated tools that we can able to use it today to version your machine learning models. You have version 1, version 2, n number of versions. We use those model registries. If I want to give one example, MLflow as something on Amazon SageMaker in AWS, or in Azure, or in GCP, right? So these are some of the challenges that we're talking about similar to DevOps. And we know that MLOps and DevOps are completely different, but we do have some common things, but those common things are the way we use those tools are completely different. So saying that, can we get started with the second highlight that we need to discuss? You know that you made a promise till staying till end of discussing about three highlights here, right? So now we are getting started with discussing about second highlight. Okay, we do understand what is MLOps. It's all about building an automation to deliver any kind of an AI to the production. But how do you master in that? Let's discuss about that. So in order to master MLOps, let's discuss about MLOps components. So what do you mean by MLOps components here? So what is the approach? What is the strategy in order to go ahead and build a model and deploying this to the production? Obviously, we are talking about first cases, use case discovery, right? This is where an organization figure out, okay, the first thing that we need to understand, AI is not the hammer for all the different kind of problems you can solve. First, they need to figure out they have valid use case or not. So then come the second step is where data engineering comes into the picture. So you need a data, isn't it, to train these models, huge amount of data. So for that, we need a data engineers, are basically someone who brings the data, right, to the data pipelines. So then comes the third step. This is where we build what we call it as a machine learning pipelines, an automated pipelines, which actually makes this machine learning model. And fourth step, what we're talking about, production deployment. Yes, this is where we go ahead and deploy your models to the production. I mean, to put your AI to the plates of your customer. Then comes what? The fifth step, production monitoring, monitoring your complete infrastructure. So let's say if we are getting started, the first thing is obviously understanding a business, right? So whether you have a real problem statement that you can solve, right? You do use case identification. So you do the data understanding. What do you mean by data understanding? So whether you have an access to data. So, and can you able to harvest more data for your future, right? So then comes you do conduct all this feasibility studies. So that's the first step. So then comes we get started with data engineering here. So this is where, let's say, we do conduct what we call it as data preparation. So we discussed about what is data preparation already, right? So where we go ahead and clean and prepare your data, transform your data. So then comes what? We pick an algorithm. We learn about algorithms. So when we're talking about building a machine learning model involves the, let's say, the very important step, picking up the right algorithm which is needed, which will be done by your data scientist. So this is where we pick different algorithms like TensorFlow, Apache MXNet, sklearn. There are different frameworks that is available to build these models. So once we have picked the model algorithms, then we get started with model building and training exercise. So what we do here. So this is where we go ahead and start teaching the data to your machines, as simple as that. And we know that your data scientist cannot come up with a best quality ML model in a one shot. He does something called model experimentation. So he go ahead and does multiple iterations, experiment number one, experiment number two, etc., until he gets the best quality ML model. So we need to track all these different experiments that he is conducting. Then comes the then comes the model evaluation step. So what do you mean by model evaluation step? What we do here? See, how do you know that this is a best performing model? How do you know this is a fit model to be deployed to the production? There should be some kind of a scores. There should be some kind of a metrics that we can see that, right? So this is where in a model evaluation step, so this is where we evaluate a quality of a model. So based on a quality of a model, so here we generate a different kind of scores. So based on this scores, your data scientist decides whether it's a fit model can be deployed to the production or not. So then comes here we go ahead and plan for model serving. So where we can go ahead and deploy this model, packing the model, right? So then comes the next step. This is where we go ahead and deploy this model to the production. So that means you have your customers who can able to start using the models, right? And then we go ahead and automate it, everything. So this is where we go ahead and operate it continuously, and we use this monitoring tools in order to monitor your model and the complete infrastructure that you have built. And then we go ahead and learn the lessons from that monitoring jobs, and we keep on optimizing, right? As an MLOps engineer, your duty to go ahead and stitch each and every step together here. So that's what exactly we call it as an automation. So saying that, now let's discuss about the D. Big D important step, important slide. So obviously, this is what exactly what we're talking about: automated ML pipelines versus CI/CD ML pipelines. So there are two different ways how you can able to build an automation, right? So we are talking about building an automated ML workflows versus completely incorporated CI/CD pipelines. So today you can also see a lot of organizations, they are moving from automated ML workflows to completely incorporated CI/CD pipelines. So what do you mean by automated workflows? So that means we focus on the initial steps of creating and deploying your machine learning model. So this is where we bring the data, we do data pre-processing. Once the data is ready, we go ahead and teach this data to a machine, what we call it as model training. Then we finally go ahead and deploy this model to the production. So obviously, it adds more advantages once your organizations are moving into completely incorporated CI/CD pipelines. Obviously, before we go ahead and discuss about so completely incorporated CI/CD pipelines, there is a term that we use in organization. So we call it as MLOps maturity stack or MLOps maturity level in your organization. So what do you mean by that? See what happens, not every organization on a day one, they implement complete automation. So everyone would start from level zero. Level zero is basically no automation, right? But once an organizations are going to level one, level two, level three, and level four. So level four is what we call it as a complete automated retraining pipelines. So level three has less automation than level four. Level three, level two has less automation than level three and level one, for an example, right? So here, what kind of an automation that is required for your organization? So, and again, deciding that, and again, that will be managed by your MLOps engineer. So this particular slide, which actually gives an example for a level four architecture project, right? So let's go ahead and discuss about that. So what it takes to build a level four architecture project. So there are multiple projects that we'll be building throughout this particular program in terms of level four architecture project. Obviously, what is the first step? The first foremost step, identifying the use case. We discussed about already, your organization will identify the use case. Let's imagine, okay, now we have a use case to get started. The first step in a workflow is obviously bringing the data to your organization. So we already understand the importance of data versioning. Your data will definitely have versions we discussed about in a story. And this is where we will go ahead and integrate data versioning tools, a dedicated data versioning tools. If I want to give a couple of examples, there is something called DVC, data version control, or let's say we call it as Git large files. AWS has their own tool, Azure has their own tool, GCP has their own tool that you can able to use it to version your data. So then comes the next step in a workflow. We are talking about data pre-processing step. So this is where a data engineer or data scientist comes into the picture. So what we do in a data pre-processing. So data pre-processing is all about cleaning your data, right? Preparing and transforming your data, for an example, right? So what we do here. So here comes your data scientists or data engineers. They write a lot of code, maybe Python, not MLOps engineers. Don't worry. You are not someone who is going to build these models. So basically, MLOps engineers are someone who is going to stitch all these things together, right? So your data engineers or data scientists, they write a lot of code. And again, we discussed about importance of code repositories. Definitely we use the code repositories here to manage your source code. So source code, it can be data pre-processing source code or model training source code, or it can be the source code. As an MLOps engineer, you would be writing an ML scripts in order to manage the infrastructure. We also use the same code repositories for that. So then comes a model building step. In a model building step, again, here comes your data scientist. They write a lot of code, and this code will be again versioned on top of code repositories. So then comes a step where we started model training. So this is where we started feeding a data to a machine, and where we want to train the machine learning model. So this is where we call something called feature stores as well. So what do you mean by feature stores? Obviously. So what do you think we teach to a machine? For a machine, we teach features. For an example, we'll talk about the same example, right? So let's say we are actually trying to build a machine learning model which is going to predict an electricity bills. So my data set might look like this. I might have a voltage, I might have a current, I might have power, I might have bills that you might have paid for the last couple of years. So this is my data set. So voltage is a feature, current is a feature, power is a feature, and bills are what we call it as target. So I want to teach this data, and I want my machine to predict my future bills, what I'm talking about, right? So that's a use case. So what happens? A feature store is something what we call it as a schema repository. It's not a database. So this feature store will manage these features. So what kind of a feature you have, voltage, current, power, what the data type it is, whether it's an integer, whether it's a float. So basically, a feature store is basically a schema repository which manages the right schema. And again, we can able to version different schemas. So by using feature store, by using these features, we fetch the data through data versioning tools, for an example. So then what we do, we started training a machine learning models. Then what happens? What is the output of model training? When one after we train the machine data to a machine, you get what we call it as machine learning model, which is part of final end product, correct? A machine learning package. But a machine learning model alone is not an output. What you get after model training, you get what we call it as model artifacts. So model artifacts are basically the combinations of your machine learning model and a lot of other metadata that we used at the time of training, right? So we get this model artifacts and we store this model artifacts in a model registry. So we discussed the importance of model registry as well. They are dedicated tools to version your models, the metadata of your models, etc. Right? So then comes the final step. We are talking about model deployment step. So this is where we grab, let's say you have first version of a model, second version of model, third version of model. So we pick the latest version of a model, which is a best performing model. So then we go ahead and deploy this model to the production. So then we go ahead and integrate it, and then we started operating in a production. So this is where you have your end users would be started consuming the model. So then comes what? We do have an end-to-end traceability as well. What do you mean by traceability? Just monitoring everything that you have built so far, starting from let's say data pre-processing step to model deployment and operation step. So where we have your machine learning model in a production, so where you keep on monitor the machine learning model in a production, right? So then comes, we do also have what we call it as feedback loop. So what happens here? You have a customer who brings more data, correct? And what we need to do, so we need to go ahead and collect all the new data, and we need to use this new data again for the future where we want to retrain this model, right? So this is where we do also have what we call it as automated quality gates. So what is this automated quality gates? This automated quality gates plays very important role, right? So where it actually helps you to decide whether it's the best model, can we go ahead and deploy this model to the production or not? So let's say then comes, you can also have a quality gate. So you, which also helps you in deciding, let's say whether your data has been prepared well or not in the data pre-processing step, right? So a quality gate is basically a condition. Let's say I'm training a regression model. I use a matrix called MSC. So I would be having a simple condition. If my MSC score is less than or equal to 6, if this condition is true, right, I will be going ahead and deploying this model to the production. Otherwise, if this is false, I won't deploy this model to the production. So basically, a quality gate is where your organization sets a benchmark, right? Saying that which model that we need to deploy to the production, which is not, right? So this is exactly what we call it as a level 4 architecture project. And then comes, you do have automated retraining jobs. See, consider that now I have deployed my first version of a model to the production, as well as now through the feedback loop, I'm collecting all the new data. So here, your organization would be scheduling your pipelines, this entire pipelines, saying that once in every 6 months, or once in every 1 year, or once in every month, I want to train this second version of a model. So let's imagine now we have deployed first version. So automatically what happens, let's say every first day of a month, for an example, let's say I will say every first day of a month, what happens, it will automatically grab all the new data that we have collected. Let's imagine for the last 1 month, your model is already in a production. It will grab last 1 month data from your customers, and it will again run this entire pipeline, and it will produce the second version of model. And again, we go ahead and replace the version 1 with version 2 of a model. So which we call it as a level 4 architecture project. So in this particular program, we will be building all the different levels of project. So it can be level 1, level 2, level 3, or level 4 projects. Yes. So saying that, now let's get into the very important discussion here. So different kind of roles which is involved in MLOps. So what happens here? See, developing a successful machine learning project definitely involves varieties of experiences, required extreme collaboration among the team, right? So you need to, let's say many different let's say the skills here, people from different domain to get started. So let's say we are talking about, yes, there are data analysts who can be part of MLOps, data engineers, data scientists, research or applied scientists, ML engineers, or what we call it as, let's say otherwise DevOps engineers. So we don't call it as DevOps engineers, so we can call it as ML engineers or MLOps engineers, right? So developers, then comes MLOps engineers basically, right? See what happens. The first thing is, let's say the first thing we will be getting started with the first use case. Once you have a right use case, then we need a right set of peoples here, right? It's all about depending on the organizations. So, and again, so you cannot expect all these roles in every organization. It depends on their project needs. Okay. So the first thing, let's say what data analyst does. So data analyst, they work closely with the product manager and business team. So basically they drive the insights from the user data. They use tools like SQL, Excel sheets, and range of data visualization tools like Tableau and Power BI. So then comes our data engineers. So data engineers, they will make sure the infrastructure to collect, transform, process, and store the data for your data science jobs. So, and again, your data engineers will play a very important role in working with what I'm calling it as feature stores, data versioning tools, and they also use other tools like Spark, Hadoop, ETL tools, etc. And then comes our dear data scientist. Yes, so those are the people, someone who builds the machine learning models, which will be part of final end product. Then comes research or applied scientist. For an example, when we're talking about research or applied scientist, so obviously you cannot expect this role in every organizations, but organizations who are working on a cutting edge technology, Google, Microsoft, yeah, OpenAI, just imagine that. So those organizations, they might have what we call it as research or applied scientists. They're usually working on developing new algorithms which can solve various different problems in your organization, right? Yeah. So then comes, we are talking about, yes, ML engineers or DevOps engineers. So basically when we're talking about ML engineers are in, if an ML, DevOps engineer transform into MLOps, he can be MLOps engineer or ML engineer. So let's say when we're talking about machine learning engineer, their work will be overlapped with data engineers, and but they focus largely on machine learning models and related infrastructures. So what your ML engineer does, he will be closely working with data scientist as well, because data scientist is someone who creates a machine learning model, and your ML engineer will be taking the machine learning model, and he will be deploying that to the production. So that is ML engineer. So then comes, you will be also having a developers in your organization, and you know that we can say they are the last piece of a puzzle. They built a front end UI, the customer facing application. So then comes our MLOps engineers. So MLOps engineers, they work closely with all those different peoples, and MLOps engineers who actually provides the directions. MLOps engineers are someone who builds the automation, which stitches the work between data analysts, data engineers, data scientists, any other stakeholders that you do have in your organization. So you take care of this complete automation, right? So saying that, let's have a quick look, a quick taste of a recipe here. I mean, let's have a taste of different tools of MLOps, different tools that we use in MLOps here, right? Obviously, so here in our program, we call it as it's a 360-degree view of MLOps. So what do you mean by 360-degree view of MLOps? We get to cover, let's say, anything that is needed in terms of MLOps. It can be AWS, Azure, GCP, including open source tools. Okay, so let's get started. So let's have a flavors of different tools that are available across, right, the world in terms of MLOps. I mean, there are a lot of tools. This particular slide will just get an idea, and we will also talk about the tools that we use in our program as well, right? Okay, so now let's say we are talking about different tools for MLOps, like data versioning, experiment tracking, code versioning, model registries, and model monitoring tools that we need to have, right? So we know what it takes to build a machine learning model. We do understand the initial steps, right? First is bringing a data collection and labeling. So we bring the data first. Then what we do? Data exploration, which is nothing but data cleaning. We clean the data, right? So then we go ahead and start training this machine, right? So basically we started teaching the data to a machine. So what we call it as model training and model evaluation. So you know what is model evaluation is? This is where we evaluate a metrics, right? It's some kind of a score which helps us to decide whether it is a model has been trained in a proper way or not. Then comes, we go ahead and deploy this model to the production, isn't it? Yeah, these are the steps. Obviously, in order to work with this particular steps, we use different types of tools within your organization. So we call it as MLOps stack maturity. Any organization might use different tools here. Let's say here we are talking about different kind of IDEs, right? A code editing tools, right? So it can be, let's say we are talking about Jupyter notebooks. We are talking about, let's say VS Code. It can be Spider. There are different kind of IDEs you can use. Then comes, we talked about importance of code versioning, right? So here we have a good example is GitHub, you know it, Bitbucket. Our AWS has something called their own repository. Azure has Azure repositories. So we can use any code repositories, right? So then comes, we are talking about data labeling tools. So let's say when you're trying to teach a difference between a cat and a dog to your machine, you might be having a picture of a cat, and you should also have a text file which says it's a cat, right? So because your machine doesn't understands a picture, it understands in the form of number. So then comes, we are talking about data exploration and visualization tools, right? As a human beings, you know that we are a visual beings, right? So that means when we see something visually, we do understand, right? So this is where we use different kind of data visualization tools. It can be Matplotlib, Seaborn, etc. for an example. So basically what happens, this data visualization tools will actually help us to get a better idea about your data. So then comes, we are talking about feature engineering. So this is where your scientists or data engineers comes into picture. They use different kind of tools in order to perform data engineering. It can be sklearn, feature tools, feast. So there are different tools that is available. So then comes, we are talking about model training tools. So we discussed about algorithms. Algorithms plays very important role in order to train the machine learning models. A data scientist might pick any different kind of an algorithm for different use cases here. TensorFlow, sklearn, XGBoost, Keras, there are a lot, right? Then comes building a quick POC. Let's say before we go ahead and deploy this model to the production, a data scientist want to decide, okay, so you want to see how this model works, you want to build some quick POC. He might use Jupyter as Streamlit to temporarily test it. So then comes, we are talking about model debugging and visualization tools, right? So let's say you have a machine learning models. So you need to have some kind of a tool to go ahead and debug it to see how the model has been trained, for an example. So this is where we use tools like Neptune.ai, and there are commercial tools as well. So this particular slide also have a commercial tools as well. So that means where you can pay a subscription, you can also start using it. So weights and biases, TensorBoard for an example. Then comes, we are talking about model tuning and hyperparameter tuning jobs. So we discussed about your data scientist does something called experiments. So in order to does this experiment, there are different SDKs, different algorithms are available. So these are the, let's say Keras tuner for an example. And each and every algorithm has its own SDK that you can able to use it to hyperparameter tuning. So then comes we are talking about experiment tracking. So we discussed a data scientist does different experiments, experiment 1, experiment 2, experiment 3. So this is where we will be working on different tools. As an MLOps engineer, you'd be helping them to setting up the different tools where you can so go ahead and start working on this particular tools to set up an experiment tracking tools for, let's say, MLOps engineers like ML flow, weights and biases, TensorBoard. So then comes model packing. So let's say if I want to deploy this model to the production, what we need to do? We need to pack it, isn't it? Right? If you want to go ahead and go for a lunch, let's say you want to eat a lunch in your office, you're getting a lunch from your home, you need to pack it, right? You need to pack the lunch. In the same way, we pack your machine learning model, then we go ahead and deploy it to the production. There are different methods to go ahead and pack your model in the form of TensorFlow, our ML flow way of packing it, our ONNX, our Kubeflow, right? So then comes, we are talking about model serving. So where do you serve your model? That means where do you go ahead and deploy this model to the production basically, right? So you want to deploy this model anywhere. It completely depends on your organization. So you want to deploy the model on top of AWS or Azure or GCP, on premises, Docker, Kubernetes, serverless. So there are different methods. So here I just mentioned few, SageMaker or maybe Bento ML, etc. for an example. And then comes a very important tool set here. We are talking about workflow orchestration. So what do you mean by workflow orchestration? So let's say you need some method to stitch different things together, right? So let's say I want to go ahead and stitch a data pre-processing with model training, with model evaluation and model deployment, right? So this is where we bring workflow orchestration tools. Like we are talking about Apache Airflow, Kubeflow, ZenML. There are different tools. There are commercial tools as well, like Olahai, for an example. And then we discussed about data versioning tools. We do understand the importance of it, right? So we discussed about DVC. This is what exactly DVC logo looks like. There are a lot of other tools. Neptune.ai is there. Git large files are there. There are commercial tools as well. So like Olahai, weights and biases that you can use. And we discussed about model registries, isn't it? We discussed about the importance of versioning your model for an example, right? So let's say we are talking about ML flow. And again, there are other tools as well. So weights and biases, Olahai, like every cloud platform has their own model registry. SageMaker in AWS, Azure Machine Learning Studio in Azure, or Vertex AI in GCP. So then comes model monitoring tools, right? So there is the famous open source tool, which we call it as Evidently AI, right? Which we're going to use it in our program. Every cloud has their own SDK that we can use to get started with model monitoring job. And you can use other tools like Seldon Core, Fiddler. So then comes the final set of tools like feature stores, right? A schema repositories that we discussed. Feast is pretty much famous open source tool that we will also explore. SageMaker or Azure ML or GCP Vertex AI, they have their own feature stores as well to get started. So this is just an idea. So you can see, so there are wide varieties of tools what your organizations can able to use to get started. So now let us talk about the folks who want to head their career into the MLOps. Let's say we are talking about the program which is going to help you for not just for the short time goal I'm talking about. So where next 10 to let's say 15 years a journey or into MLOps here. So we are talking about, so as you're going to work in a lead positions in MLOps for an example, right? So how do you architect or how do you pick a tool for your organization? The key features of MLOps tools. Obviously, the first step is picking a open source tools or closed source tools. So we do understand open source tools are always free to use. There's no doubt about it, correct? But the problem is, let's say if you have very few developers to work on these open source tools, and in case if you're picking the wrong open source tool where you don't have huge community, a good documentation, that hurts, right? So then comes we are talking about platform versus a specific tool. So this is where we are talking about commercial tools. So we are talking about cloud, open source, as well as commercial tools. So commercial tools are basically, let's say it's not a cloud, but they are tools which they ready-madely available everything for any organizations to get started with MLOps, but you'd be paying in subscriptions for them. So whether you're going to go with platform or specific tools, then comes we are talking about model and production environment monitoring. So consider you're going to pick a tool. It can be on AWS or Azure or GCP or open source tools. So does that tool supports model and environment monitoring? Environment monitoring, I mean the complete infrastructure that you have built. So, and in order to ensure that you could able to capture your bugs and they're documented and addressed in meantime. So then comes we are talking about, so your MLOps team, sometimes they might want to catch things like security and compliances concerns as well, right? So whether your tool provides that. So then comes we are talking about model templating and cataloging. So when we are talking about MLOps, templating plays very important role, right? See, consider that we are talking about this level 4 architecture project, right? So there are, in every cloud, we will be building a level 4 architecture project. So it actually takes more than 10 to 15 hours to build this level 4 architecture projects. But yeah, when you're working in an organization, you'll be working with a lot of peoples, for an example. So what happens, let's say it takes a couple of months, let's say an average of 9 months for your organization to deliver any kind of an MLOps project. But you're not going to only work with that project alone. Tomorrow you would be working with different clients, different organizations. I mean, different clients within your organization, for an example. But the question is, do you want to reinvent a wheel again and again? No, right? So obviously, this is where the importance of templating comes in picture. So you already delivered the project for a specific client and you have a same template. You're going to make some changes, a minimal changes. That's what exactly we call it as template, right? We make minimal changes, then we go ahead and deploy the different model, different problem we can solve for a different client. So then we are talking about automation in the process of model training, tuning, and drift management. So does the tool that you're going to pick, does it helps you in automating automated model training, tuning, right? Tomorrow I want to produce different versions of models. Then I want to go ahead and manage the drift, for an example, right? So does the tool provides that automation for you, right? Then comes pipeline management. So let's say when we're talking about pipeline management, let's say when we're building any kind of an ML automation here, right? There are different stakeholders who comes into the picture, right? So let's say we are talking about data engineers, data scientists, ML engineers, right? We are talking about other people's are, let's say we're talking about the overall MLOps engineers, for an example. So each and every person will be responsible for different activity here, right? So what happens, do you have does the pipeline supports, let's say, automated triggers up, let's say automated notifications for your team? So maybe you have a CI/CD pipeline that got broke, right? So can it notify, right, the specific team, alert them, right? Or maybe collecting the logs, etc. So then we are talking about collaboration and communication capabilities, right? So when we are talking about, let's say, MLOps is all about collaboration and communication. So making sure that, let's say, your workflow that you're building is documented, your questions are answered, your team could able to collaborate easily. So this is where we are talking about using project management tools. We are talking about using communication tools like Slack, etc. Right? So yeah, some of the key factors as you would be focusing on applying for lead positions in MLOps, what you should have the capabilities. Now, let us talk about, yeah, MLOps on a cloud. So what cloud offers in terms of MLOps? And first of all, why do we need to learn the cloud? Yeah. So we all know that cloud is something that you cannot ever avoid. Every organization, they use cloud platform, right? And again, here we are talking about, yes, we definitely cannot avoid the cloud, but the question is, what exactly are we going to learn? So which cloud platforms that we will be focusing on? So yes, we will be focusing on not one, not two, it's three. Yes, we will be focusing on the three leading cloud platforms that is outside in the market. You know, AWS leads the market. They occupy majority of a share. Then comes Azure, then comes GCP. Yes, we do cover MLOps on all the three cloud platforms. That is AWS, Azure, GCP, right? So not just limited to the cloud platform, open source tools as well. See, today what happens, any organization who use cloud, they don't use cloud, but they still use open source tools. There are organizations who use multi-cloud as well. You will see definitely when you check any JD, any job description of, let's say what we're talking about, MLOps engineer, definitely you will see they do mention at least not one, not two. They do mention all the three cloud platforms, AWS, Azure, and GCP. So not limited to that, open source tools as well. Let's say we are talking about Dockers, Kubernetes, MLflow, Kubeflow, ZenML, DVC, right? Does it sounds like a rhyming? Yes. So there are a lot of tools. Okay, saying that, let's focus on the kind of a tools that we will be learning throughout this particular program. So obviously we'll be getting started with Git-based tools. So this is where we'll be getting started with Git and working with different kind of code repositories like GitHub, working with Azure repos and any other particular code repositories that we're talking about. So then comes, we are talking about learning CI/CD. So what is anyway the CI/CD is all about? So which we're talking about continuous integration and continuous deployment. So what do you mean by that? Anyway, so CI/CD is a tools that we use in any software industry to deliver the newer version of a software to the production. So basically, CI/CD tools helps us to build your software, pack your software, test your software, and deliver this software to the production. So which we're talking about DevOps. Yes, we use the same kind of CI/CD tools in a different way when we're getting started with MLOps, right? So consider that. Let's talk about there is a Java developer. So I'm talking about a DevOps workflow here. So Java developer writes some code, he commits the code. I mean, he pushed the code to a code repository. So there are something called automated triggers. They do understand by automatically saying that, okay, you have your software developer made some changes and he pushed the changes to the code. And this is where we have our build tools, which takes this software who build a Java application. See what happens when a Java developer creates a Java application. Once we build the final, and let's say the job for us to go ahead and create a executable jar file, right? So here is a build tool which actually builds the software. And once the building process is completed, right, this is where we go ahead and started doing testing. So once the software is built, we need to test it, right? We want to ensure that it is good and fair enough to be deployed to the production. So here we go ahead and run the test, and we also ensure that your testing is passed or not. Then finally, if your testing is passed, then we go ahead and finally focus on deploying this particular software to the production, right? So here is a simple workflow. We'll get a better idea. So here is our setup, a CI/CD setup. So let's talk about, let's say you're running an e-commerce business. Let's say you're into e-commerce business, and in your e-commerce business, otherwise just think of an Amazon itself. When you go to Amazon, there is in the production view, there is a green color button which you actually click to pay now to buy any products on Amazon. You know that. So green is not so much attractive. There are a lot of customers who send a feedback. So green is not so much attractive. Change it to red. Okay. So for an example, a simple feature that you want to develop. So let's say here comes your developer who makes the changes to the button. Just imagine in the perspective of if you want to develop any software, any new feature that you want to develop. So here comes your developer, changes the button color from green to red. And here is the complete CI/CD setup. Let's say we're using AWS for an example. So I'm using GitHub as your code repository. This is where I have my code, right? And I have multiple branches. So I have dev branch for development and I have production. So what I do initially, I will push the code to my dev. So what happens, this is where I have initial steps. I will take the software, I started building it. Once the software has been built, I will be having an artifacts, which is ready to be deployed to the production. Then I will take these artifacts, then I go ahead and deploy that to my web server. So here we are talking about simple web apps. So initially deploy my application to my dev environment, not to production. So here comes your internal team. They go ahead and check the quality of a button, the functionality of a button. Can we able to click it? The functionality of a button is working or not. If you're satisfied with that, then in a next step, we go ahead and deploy the same button, the red color button, to the production. So once, if all the testing is done, you deploy to the production, then comes your actual front end. I mean, the actual users, they would be started using your application, right? In the same way, if I want to integrate my CI/CD pipelines to my MLOps pipelines, it would look like this. So here comes your data scientist, or MLOps engineers, for an example. So what MLOps engineers might do? So they might be working on infrastructure as a code. They might be making some changes to the infrastructure. Maybe your data scientist is writing some Python code for building a machine learning model. They make some changes to the code. They push the code to a code repository. It can be any kind of a code repository. And once they push the code to a code repository, everything is automated now. So now what happens? Automatically the code has been pushed. The first step in a workflow is basically what we call it as feature engineering, or what we're calling it as data preparation. So this is where we get started with automated data preparation. So once automatically data is prepared, then we go to the second step, which we call it as model training. We automatically take the data, which is already prepared in a previous step. And this is where we started training a machine learning model. So now you have a machine learning model as a final output. Then in a third step, I want to decide whether it is a good model to be deployed to the production. How do I know? I need to generate some score. So this is where I go ahead and do model evaluation. I generate some score. This particular score would be helpful for me to decide. So how do I decide? So this is where we talk about quality gate. So we discussed about quality gate already. So this is where I have a simple condition. So let's say the score is called MSC. It's a kind of a matrix. Just imagine it's a number. So here I write a simple condition. If my MSC score is less than or equal to 6, 6 is a benchmark that is your organization has decided. If this is true, right, then I will go ahead and register my first version of a model to my model registry. So this is where in the fifth step, I register my model. Then what happens? I will take this first version of a model. Let's say I will use this CI/CD pipelines. I will go ahead and build it. Maybe let's say I am Dockerizing my model. So let's say I want to pack my model within a Docker. So then in the next step, let's say I will go ahead and deploy my model to my model hosting platform. So maybe what we call it as real-time endpoint to the batch or serverless, Dockers, Kubernetes, right? I go ahead and deploy it. So here as well. I will go ahead and deploy my first version of a model to dev environment. So which is only accessible to your internal team. You go ahead and test your model, see if your model is working fine, see the quality is good. If you're satisfied with that, then in a next step, you go ahead and deploy the same version of a model to the production. And then comes where you have model monitoring and the complete infrastructure monitoring. So where you keep on monitoring your model. And then comes, we discussed about automated scheduling. So maybe once in every 3 months, once in every 6 months, you go ahead and retrain the model. And again, you produce the second version of model, third version of model, fourth version of model, fifth version of model, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, etc., etc. You go ahead and retrain it. That's what exactly we're talking about, automated training pipeline. So, okay, we are discussing about something called MLOps. Okay, so here comes something called LLM ops. Okay, what is this? Are we altogether starting some different story? Definitely not. Yes. So here we are talking about, let's say, what could be the difference in delivering your large language models to the production? Let's say, we are talking about to deploy any kind of a Gen AI models to the production. There's no difference, but there are few more additional components that we'll be learning. See, we discussed it can be LLMs or any kind of a Gen AI models. They are kind of a deep learning models. They are machine learning models. But in the world of today, Gen AI, that definitely this generative AI models can be misused in many different ways, isn't it? Yes. We can able to use these generative AI models to generate some offensive text, offensive pictures, offensive videos, offensive audios. But the question is, how do you safeguard? How any organization is going to implement a responsible AI and a responsible way of building any generative AI applications? Deploying your models. So we'll be having the same workflow. So what is the first step? The first step is data preparation and versioning. We do understand the importance of data versioning. So in the second step, so here we are talking about supervised fine tuning, right? Whether you're training a model from a scratch or when we're talking about most of the generative AI use cases, they do fine tuning. So which is nothing but they take an existing model, which is available in industry, they update the knowledge for that particular model. And then comes what? Once you train or fine tune your model, you'll get your own version of your machine learning models, right? So this is where model registries comes into the picture. The same model registries that we discussed, it can be MLflow, something on AWS, something on Azure, something on GCP. So we use the same model registries where we can go ahead and version your models or model artifacts. Then comes what? I will go ahead and run the pipeline again. In a fourth step, I will grab the best performing model. Maybe version 3 is the latest. I will go ahead and take this version 3 of my model. Then I go ahead and deploy this version 3, maybe my own LLM, my own generative AI model to the production. So now I have my LLM in a production. So what happens next? So let's say this is where I will be having my users coming to the picture, right? So this is where, let's say we're talking about your users will be writing a prompts, right? We do something called prompting, right? So you go to ChatGPT, you write the prompt, right? You go to Gemini, you write the prompt. So ChatGPT or Gemini is a final end product, but we are talking about how you actually build a product. So this is where, let's say, we integrate responsible AI. So responsible AI will safeguard, ensuring that your AI that you're building is used responsibly by your customers. So what happens? A responsible AI will act as a filter. Let's say if a user is inputting any prompt which is offensive, if user is trying to generate some offensive content, your responsible AI will block that request. Similarly, if AI is generating some offensive output, yes, your AI might also generate some offensive content which might hurt someone. So still responsible AI would play a very important role here to filter that response. Then you get the filtered output for your user. So this is what it takes, this only difference. So we'll be also talking about that. So then comes, now let us talk about the different CI/CD tools that we will be covering in our program. Yes, not limited to one cloud. So we will be getting started with different kind of CI/CD tools on top of AWS. We'll be talking about code pipelines, code build, code deploy, etc. And yes, we will be covering the complete Azure DevOps suite, Azure repos, Azure pipelines, Azure test plans, boards, etc. And not then comes when it comes to GCP, we'll be also exploring GCP based DevOps tools like Cloud Run, Cloud Build, Cloud Deploy, and its own code repositories. So then comes we are talking about not limited to, let's say, the cloud based tools, and we'll be also talking about open source tools as well, free to use tools. Like let's say we're talking about Jenkins. Yes, we'll be also talking about let's say GitHub Actions as well to get started, right? So then comes, yes, yeah, so obviously we, as we're talking about open source tools, getting started with understanding Dockers plays very important role. Dockers are everywhere in this today's world, so we'll be getting started with Dockers for MLOps. What I mean, Kubernetes for MLOps. And we will be exploring a managed Kubernetes platforms on all the clouds. Let's say we're talking about Amazon EKS or Azure AKS or Google Kubernetes Engine, or what we call it as GKE, right? So then comes the next set of open source tools that we will be exploring in this particular program. So yes, for data versioning, we will be getting started with DVC from the scratch, understanding what is GitLab files. For we discussed about importance of feature stores. So we'll be getting started with Feast, a very famous open source feature store. And we will be also going ahead and discussing about different workflow orchestration tools. Yes, we'll be getting started with Kubeflow, understanding Apache Airflow, and such other open source tools we will be also discussing about, like ZenML, Metaflow, MLRun, getting started with Argo workflow, so Kedro or CML. Then comes the one tool that you definitely need to have when you're stepping into AI industry, understanding model registries. Yes, we will be getting started from the scratch, understanding what is ML flow is about. And as we discussed already, as an MLOps engineer, you would be also taking care of infrastructure. It depends on an organization. They do expect you to do infrastructure as well. So we'll be also talking about various different infrastructure as a tool, right? So we'll be talking about getting started with Terraform. And when we're talking about AWS, they have something called CDK. Yes, we'll be learning about cloud deployment kit on top of AWS. Our Azure has, we use Azure ARM templates by using Azure DevOps, right? And then we are talking about for model monitoring tools, we'll be exploring the very famous and must know model monitoring tool that is Evidently AI. And yes, that's an open source model monitoring tool. And then comes the cloud-based tools that we will be exploring. Yes, when it comes to AWS, we'll be getting started with Amazon SageMaker, SageMaker Studio. When it comes to Azure, yes, we'll be getting started with Azure Machine Learning Workspace. When it comes to GCP, Vertex AI. So this is where we use these tools to build all the level 4 architecture projects. So then comes, when we're talking about these cloud platforms, they have their own SDKs, software development kits for getting started with model monitoring. So we'll be exploring and getting started with one of our hands-on on any one of a cloud. Let's say it can be on AWS, Azure, or GCP. So where we'll be getting started with the SDKs for model monitoring. So not limited to that, we will be also exploring about commercial tools. Yes, cloud-based tools and open source tools are really important, but yes, it's, we call it as 360-degree view of ML ops. Yes, we will also explore the commercial tools as well. Like what is Isgazia? What is Ola High? What is weights and biases, right? How do we get started? So then comes the final part is post-deployment challenges. Peace. Okay, now you have deployed the model. Now, yeah, there's no peace. But yeah, the actual job starts after you deploying the model. So we'll be having some challenges related to software engineering, post-deployment of your models. We'll be having the challenges related to ML engineering. And we will be having a couple of challenges when you're deploying your models on edge. We'll be talking about that. So we'll be talking about model monitoring. We'll be talking about how to optimize your models, how to scale your models, right? So saying that, so the part of second highlights, how to master your MLOps. Why don't we wait? Can we get started with a quick demo here? So remember, we are just in the second highlights. You made a promise to stay till the third highlights, okay, to get an 100% of value. All you need to put your investment in your time here in this particular demo session. So let's get started. I will just quickly show you the end-to-end, the level 4 architecture project that I built on top of AWS. You can explore in detail about this particular project in our course. So let me just go to my Amazon SageMaker console. So here we go. Okay, perfect. You can see this is my Amazon SageMaker Studio, one of a tool that we discussed. So Amazon SageMaker Studio is a platform which is built for data scientists, MLOps engineers, or any stakeholders who want to get started with building a complete end-to-end machine learning project. So here I will be going to, let's say, left side navigation panel. There are deployments, there are projects here. So this is where I have created one project. I called it as Test MLOps Pro. So my project is successfully completed. I will go inside this project and I will go inside my pipeline. So what do you mean by pipeline? This is the complete level for automation that I have built. So let me just go inside this pipeline. And now I am inside executions. So what do you mean by executions? So consider that this particular pipeline has been built in a way that, so let's say each and every time when this pipeline executes, I will get the newer version of a model. So far, I have only one execution you can able to notice, and this execution is so far it is succeeded. So let's say if I have one execution, I have first version of a model. If I have another execution, I have second version of a model. If I have another version, I might have third version of a model. But when do I get second version and third version? It depends on an organization. As I mentioned, maybe you want to retrain the entire model with a newer version of a data. As I mentioned, that is depending on the schedule. So maybe you can schedule your job to run every 1 month. That means automatically you take the new arrived data for last 1 month and you'll be started preparing and training and evaluating and producing the second version of model. When you produce second version of model, you have second version of model. Right now I have only one version of a model. Perfect. So now let me get inside this particular execution. Okay. So here, this is what exactly the orchestration that I'm talking about, right? So let's say this is the complete orchestration that we have built. Yes. So here comes MLOps engineers would be taking care of the CI/CD, the infrastructure part. So we'll be having a CI/CD pipelines. Either we use Azure, let's say either we use AWS DevOps tools or open source tools like GitHub Actions for an example. So through that, this is the final output. So this is the orchestration that we have built. Okay. So this is an automated orchestration. So I don't manually interrupt here. Everything will be done automatically. So what do you think the first step in your workflow? The first step in a workflow is data preparation, right? So this is a step. So where I have done a data pre-processing. So anyway, if I want to give a quick example, what kind of a model that I have trained doesn't matter because I can use the same exact workflow to train any classical machine learning model to large language model to Gen AI model. So here actually I'm training a machine learning model which is actually going to predict an age of an abalone. I mean, in case of you're a seafood lover, you might know what is an abalone. It's a some kind of a sea snail. So what exact problem that we are solving? Basically, we are predicting an age of an abalone because in the market, a fish market, yeah, whatever the market it is, like abalones will be sold based on the age. So here, this machine learning model is going to predict an age of an abalone. So the first step in a workflow, we do data pre-processing. Then what we do? What we do in a data pre-processing step, we split the data to training and testing. So what we do here, I get my training data and here I go ahead and train my machine learning model. So what could be the output of model training? I will get my machine learning model. So from this, that will be part of final end product, but it is not final end product. So then comes, I have my machine learning model. I will take this machine learning model to model evaluation step. So what do we do in a model evaluation step? In a model evaluation step only, this is where we calculate a score that helps an organization to decide whether it's the best model. Can I go ahead and deploy this model to production or not? So this is where we go ahead and evaluate a score. So this is where we calculate what we call it as MSC or RMSC, F1 score. There are different metrics that we use for different algorithms. Okay. So here, let's imagine we calculated any one of a metrics. It can be MSC itself. Let's say if my MSC score is 4.5 for an example. Okay. So then comes, I have quality gate. So I will call this as a quality gate. Right? We discussed what is a quality gate is. The duty of a quality gate, which is going to help us to decide whether it is a fit model, can we deploy that to production or not? I mean, can we put this model to the plates of a customer or not? So this is where we decide. The condition is pretty much simple. You have a benchmark that is decided by your organization. So if your MSC score is, once again, if your MSC score is less than or equal to 6, 6 is a benchmark that is set by your organization. If it is true, I will register my model to model registry. Yes, you can see the output is true. That means, yes, my MSC score is 4.5, whether it is less than or equal to 6. Yes, it is true. That's why you could able to see your model has been successfully registered to a model registry. And we discussed what is model registry already. It's a tool which helps us to version a model. Okay. Then, as I mentioned, now I have my model in a model registry. Can we get started with model registry? Yes. Towards left side navigation panel, you can see this is where I have models. which I call it as model registry. So here you can able to see I have different model registries, not one. Okay, you can see this is the model registry that I've created for this demo, which I call it as test MLOps Pro. If I expand it, you can see I have my first version of a model, which is not deployed to the production. What we discussed if we have a model, we don't directly deploy to the production. We'll be having some manual intervention. Let's say I'm a MLOps engineer, data scientist. I will go inside this model. I will click on this version 1. Okay. So here I will go ahead and check all the metrics. So how does your model has been trained? What's your metrics? So here are the different metrics that I calculated. I have calculated RMSE and training, RMSE and validation. So I will also go ahead and calculate my evaluation. So far we don't have any evaluation, not a problem. So if I satisfied, right, with this metrics, then I go to the final deployment step. So here's the final deployment step. Now here I will approve. As a senior folks, I will click on this drop down here. You can see it is pending approval. I have an option to reject it if the quality is not good. Now it seems to be good. I will click on approve. And this is where I can also pass some commands. Let's say all test. Okay, add some meaningful commands. Then I can click on save. That's it. That's all what you need to do. Here you're approving the model to be deployed to the production. So now officially we have changed the status of a model to be deployed. So now what happens? I have sent a signal to deploy this model. So it will take a couple of minutes. Now the model will get deployed to the production. So now what happens here? Towards left side navigation panel, you can see there is something called endpoints. So your model that is deployed to the production will get reflected in the endpoints. So far, there is no endpoint because it's going to take some time. What do you mean by model deployment? I'm taking this model, I'm deploying it on some kind of a server, right? So we'll take a look after a few minutes. We'll come back to the screen. Then we will see model is deployed or not. Okay. 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 Can we get started now? Yes, the third highlight, what we discussed about. Okay. So we'll discuss about the career opportunities in MLOps right now. Let's get started. So why do you need to really think about getting into AI? We know the answer because AI is something that is going to be integrated in every organization tomorrow. And we definitely want to be a creator of an AI. And again, see, consider that you guys are coming from various different backgrounds. You might be a data engineer, DevOps engineer, solution architect, etc. But the question is, so why you want to transform into AI? So obviously, one of a good quote is made by Bill Gates. You know, Bill Gates is a founder of Microsoft, and now he is actually someone who is really good at making predictions, right? So Bill Gates predicted pandemic just happened, and again, he's a good predictor, right? So he made a quote in a late show, which is conducted by, which is from Stephen. So 3 months ago, 3 to 4 months ago. So he said, AI is the first technology that has no limits. We need to seriously think about this word. What do you mean by that? AI is the first technology that has no limits. So the question is, that means any other technologies apart from AI has some limits, right? So let's say we are talking about any kind of a technology so far has its own saturation. Let's talk about DevOps. DevOps has been there in in the industry for a couple of decades already, right? So this DevOps is not transforming anything new. So for DevOps is DevOps, we use this technology to deliver a software. But let's think about any other technology, etc. But if you compare that with AI is taking a different turns, not every month, not every year, every day it is taking different turns, right? Every day there is a new technology that's outside in the market, right? And let's say today we are talking, let's say last 10 years ago, we are talking about training a simple model, data science. And today we are talking about every organization is trying to deploy this model to the production, correct? So, let's say we are talking about today, we talk more about AI than last 5 years ago. But just ask this question yourself, why ChatGPT came to the market in year 2020? Yes, they came to the market end of 2020, but why they are not in a market we are talking about 5 years ago or 10 years ago. The concept is same. If you remember that, if you go back to that first slide that we discussed, every organizations are innovating. They are building a model. They're trying to figure out what they can do, how they can able to make a money out of it, right? And obviously, post let's say 2022, let's say you should able to see starting from ChatGPT, and every organizations now they are bringing their models to the production. And if they want to bring their models to the production, if they want to put these models to the plates of their customer, they need someone called MLOps engineers who is going to help them to deliver this model to the production. I'm not talking about right now. I'm talking about, let's say, where AI is going to take different turns. Today, we are talking about generative AI. Tomorrow we might talk about, let's say, AGIs, right? Artificial general intelligence. We are not there yet for AGIs. Then we talk about ASIs. So then we might talk about Terminators, which is going to come and kill this world. Yeah, Terminator movie. Yes, we are heading there. There's no doubt about it. I'm just kidding. Maybe in a right way. Yes, but AI is the one technology which is going to take different turns. So what is that for you? Obviously, the opportunity. There's a never-ending opportunity in AI, right? So which I call it as the job which pulls you forever. I mean, which gets you inside this forever. The most secure job, otherwise, putting in a very simple way. Okay. So the question is, so who can able to learn this MLOps? Who will be part of this MLOps basically? So it can be any software developers, anyone from IT background, they can get started with MLOps. See, when we're talking about MLOps, it's not a full-time development job. It's basically, I mean, it's more into the operation side of an AI. So you'll be helping any organization to deliver this AI to the production, right? So you can be a data scientist, you can be a data engineer, a data analyst, researcher, applied scientist, ML engineers, or you might be a DevOps engineer. So you can be a perfect fit to get into MLOps. Or you might be aspiring MLOps professionals or enthusiasts, or you want to know how to deploy this model to the production. Or let's say we are talking about, you might be someone who have a knowledge on Dockers, Kubernetes, AWS, Azure, GCP. You might be a solution architect, software tester even, or any individual who is interested to get into the AI industry. MLOps for you. There's no restrictions. So there is no, let's say as you are an MLOps engineer, you're not a data scientist. You don't build models here. See, consider that. We'll talk about very simple example. Let's go to a DevOps industry. DevOps engineers are not software developers, right? So there are software developers who build a software, and DevOps engineers, they make sure they take the software, packet test it, and deliver it to the production. The same thing you do it in MLOps. But yes, when we're talking about DevOps engineers, they cannot say, I have no idea what my a software developer is doing. The same thing. As you're an MLOps engineer, you'll be closely working with data science. So that's what exactly you'll be learning throughout this particular program. So, and if we talk about an actual income potential in MLOps, so here I'm talking about an average number, someone who has just 2 to 3 years of experience. So you might be having 6, 10, 18, 20 years of experience. So we have been there in this industry almost for 10 years. I have seen people who have minimum of 2 to 3 years of experience to maximum of 18 to 20 years of experience of peoples they take our program. See, they all look into the various different positions in MLOps, starting as an MLOps engineer, or MLOps lead architect, solution architect, MLOps solution architect, or let's say we're talking about MLOps specialist kind of a roles. So this program perfectly works for them. And let's say, what is an average statistics today? Let's say an average salary for MLOps engineers across let's say India, I'm talking about 2 to 3 years of experience, is around 35.1 lakhs, according to, let's say, sixfigure.com. You can figure out yourself by going to that. In Bangalore, it's somewhere around 47 lakhs. So globally, we are talking about around $165,000 per annum. And again, this salary bracket can vary according to your different experience ranges, right? So you can see the max number of people falls in 20 to 30, and where you have more experience, 30 to 40 or 40 to 50 lakhs or greater than that. So yes, let's say when we are talking about AI industry, there is no doubt about how the AI job vacancy trend is. And this is actually from itjobworks.uk. So provides a pin to pin accurate results. So this AI potentials are growing each and every day, right? So when I'm talking about AI, I'm talking about everything. Let's say it can be MLOps or any other AI related jobs that I'm talking about, right? But the actual problem is what, let's talk about an actual problem, right? The time to learn and time to get into the market, right? So basically, I will talk about an history here. So let's say it took 10 years. Let's say when I'm talking about, drones, right? It took 10 years for the drones to, let's say, transform a specific industry, right? Before drones, just imagine a news reporter, a movie makers who is going with a huge choppers with a huge cameras on top of it. Right now, you can see this industry, which took 10 years to transform, but honestly, we don't have such kind of a time. Why? Because you know that AI is transforming pretty much faster than any other industry. And again, we don't have much time to upskill. So the people who learn faster, they get to definitely use a bigger piece of cake, right? So because there's a new technology always in the market when it comes to AI. AI will never going to stop, right? So saying that, so where are you exactly is my question. So do you want to learn faster? Because I have seen folks, especially because as I'm a trainer, I talk to a lot of peoples here. There are folks uh, who has inquiring about our program, not 1 year, there are 2 to 3 years, they never transformed. And there are folks who have learned and they have transformed, because I have seen people's after completing our program, they hardly take 1 to 1.5 months to figure out the job. So, and again, last month we had a one participant. His name is Karthik. He's from DevOps background. So he got placed, but he got 6 offers. Six, not one. I literally said, Karthik, I could have just taken the 6 offers. I could have given one for each and every participant. But forget about 6 offers, and he got 121% hike. Forget about that also. 121 is high, but he climbed, he got 10 he is getting 10 interview calls per day. That's an awesome number. I'm just talking about last 2 to 3 months ago, right? So 10 to, 10 interview calls a day. I will share his testimonial. Take a look. So, but the question is, are you on it? So let's talk about our program quickly. So MLOps specialization program. So we are getting started with our new batch on September 13th. This is not our first batch. This is hardly our 18th or 19th batch that we are doing. So we are getting started with our new batch from September 13th. You don't want to wait till September 13th if you're in a hurry. So I will also let you know how you can get started as well. So this is a 12 weekends program, 12 weekends. And we are talking about with one-on-one debugging sessions as well. So quickly, let me help you with understanding awesome structure we have, awesome curriculum that we do have. So, but yeah, you made a promise. Make sure you stay till end of this program to get an 100% of value. Okay. So this is how our program is going to work, folks. Our program is going to have, let's say, live sessions every weekend. It's 100% live. What do you mean by that? So yes. And again, we'll be working almost 85% of us time that you're going to spend in our program. You will be completely busy with your mouse and cursor with your screen. What do you mean by that? Projects. Yes, projects, projects, projects. So yes, 85% of time we'll be spending on hands-on. Yes, still we need to have some time for theory as well. Yep. So every weekends around 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. IST, we'll be having a live sessions. So yes, let's say if you're joining from EST time zone, it will be 8:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. If you're from CET time zone, it will be 12:30 to 6:30 p.m. every weekend. And every Monday, you'll be receiving an access to the recordings. Yes, you'll get recordings. And yeah, I'm not just going to let you go on weekdays. Yes, on a weekdays, we do have something called debugging sessions, but this debugging sessions are optional to attend. What is this debugging sessions? Because we do more hands-on during a live session. What happens? You might have some bug, you have some error, you couldn't able to figure it out. So you can join the one-on-one debugging session. Yes, you join, you share your screen. Let me help you to figure out, let's say what is going wrong. That's how the program structure works. So you know why people's like more about our program as per our testimonials is a hands-on and our curriculum structure. I'm going to get started with curriculum discussion exactly in next 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, so let's get started. So now let us talk about our actual MLOps specialization program. As I mentioned, this is, we call it as 360-degree view of MLOps. I definitely used to say this is the best curriculum, the best program that's outside in a market. That's what people say. So you go ahead and evaluate it. You go ahead and research it, obviously. So we do cover MLOps on top of AWS, Azure, GCP, including open source tools as well. It's 100 hours of program. But you know, honestly, we didn't, still I haven't completed our previous batch program. We started previous batch on 1st of July. This upcoming Saturday will be last session. It is going more than 100 hours. Okay, perfect. So it's hardly an 100 hours of program. There are around 50 plus live hands-on labs. As I mentioned, there are 28 real-time projects. Just imagine all the different levels of architecture that we're talking about, level 1, 2, 3, 4, different projects in different levels of MLOps maturity, and one-on-one debugging session that I'm talking about. So quickly, let me just go ahead and discuss about the pricing structure that we do have for this particular program. So obviously here, let's say this program, as I mentioned, we do have peoples coming from 2 to 3 years of background to maximum of, let's say we're talking about 18 to 20 years of background. All these folks are coming from different backgrounds. So as I mentioned, this MLOps, we have helped folks coming from complete non-IT background. There is a mechanical engineer. Obviously, her name is Dipali. You can check her testimonial later. But obviously, she has some technical skills. And again, so we also helped her to transform into MLOps. And we are talking about people's like Karthik. And Karthik is coming from DevOps background, nowhere related to AI and ML. And we do have people's coming from, let's say, software testing background. We help them to transform. We have people's from data science background, cloud architect background. So software admins, for an example. So yes. So how does this program really helps you to achieve your goal? So just consider that this program is not just about upskilling, because we have carefully structured the program in such a way that we have two different phases. Phase one during the training, phase two post the training. So what is that? So we do have three different pricing structures here. We call it as basic, we call it as advanced, and advanced plus. It's going to be an awesome discussion over there as well. Let's discuss that. So we do call it as basic, advanced, and advanced plus. Advanced plus is a topmost plan where you can get more value. But there is no exception in what you learn. Whether you take basic, whether you take advanced, whether you take advanced plus, everyone will learn the same exact curriculum, right? So here comes the topmost plan. At the topmost plan, which we call it as advanced plus plan, would be costing around 52,999. And we have advanced plan, which is a middle one, will be costing around 46,999. And a basic plan would be costing around 43,999. Okay, let's have a quick discussion. Then we will go ahead and discuss the curriculum. So the topmost plan would be around 52,999. But anyway, what's the difference? Why is the difference? So let's get started from a basic plan. So basic plan is for someone who is only looking for upskilling. Let's say you want to attend live sessions every weekend, you want access to the recordings, you want to attend this doubt clearing or debugging sessions, what I call. If you're only looking for that, go for a basic plan, right? And you also get some additional free resources, etc. I will be answering all your questions. Collect million questions. I'm going to spend a lot of time with you. To that, make sure you stay till end of this program, okay? So then comes an advanced plan and advanced plus plan. So this is where you can get some more value. But as I mentioned, there's no exception in what you learn. Whether you take basic plan, you learn everything. But here we add some more premium support. So for an example, this section, right? So here we have a resume preparation and 6 months of technical job support and bonus reattendance opportunity. So let's discuss about what is this features. What is this bonus reattendance opportunity? So bonus reattendance opportunity is nothing but by signing up once, you get access to twice two batches. So basically, we do understand most of you folks are working professionals who take this program. So definitely, in the speed of technology which is evolving, we definitely spare our time. We need to upskill here. You cannot escape from learning. I will bet you whether this program or other program, definitely you'll be learning in AI in some way. You need to make a time. But how we comfort you in terms of learning this particular technology is the question. So basically, bonus reattendance opportunity lets you take the program twice. Consider that you can join the September batch. Even after you completing the September batch, you get one more batch right next batch. Let's say we might do the next batch in end of December or beginning of first week of January. You take and you'll get automatically added to the next batch as well. So that means when you put your time and investment here, definitely want to take 100% of value. We want to ensure that. So then comes, you have this 6 months of technical job support with resume preparation, a very important feature and where we're really good at. So how we could able to help peoples like Karthik, peoples like Dipali could transform into MLOps. So this is where the important steps comes. So basically it's a 4-step framework. A first step, what we call it as a resume preparation. So what we do in a resume preparation, you might be a solution architect, you might be a data engineer, you might be a software tester, you might be a ML engineer, you might be a data scientist. What's the strategy in figuring out the job? The first step is resume. So you might be having some experience that you can demonstrate something you have already worked on AI in some way. So what we do in a resume preparation session, we sit and we understand what's your resume, what your existing skills. Based on that, we will help you in optimizing your resume. We help you in putting the right keywords and some of the projects that you want to describe, right? Second step, let's say we're talking about job portals optimization. So it can be LinkedIn, Naukri, Indeed, etc. Let's say there are a lot of job portals outside in the market, just to make sure that we optimize it, because the way we optimize it could able to get, let's say, the more interview calls starting from, let's say we're talking about Rohit or Karthik, or maybe let's say we're talking about Deepali, etc. Just to make sure that you're getting some more interview calls. So definitely having a good resume and having a good good keywords on job portal, you get interview calls. That doesn't mean that you got a job. So this is where the third step comes into the picture. We call it as JD decoding. So what we do here, so consider that you have a technical round of interview day after tomorrow or tomorrow. So what you do, like what we do before you go ahead and attend any technical round of interview, we ask, okay, come, let's say bring the JD, we will sit for a discussion. So me and you, yeah, this is me and this is you for an example. So we both sit and we discuss, okay? So we both sit and decode this JD. What I mean, let's say we'll go through each and every tools, what kind of a clouds they're looking forward, and how do you prepare. Then definitely we're going to demonstrate some experience on your resume. But they're going to ask one question. One, yeah. So tell me, what have you done in terms of MLOps in your previous organization? Right? They're going to ask this question. So the answer would be, so you need to have some story, a story that convinces him. So you have built some end-to-end machine learning pipelines, you have used this cloud, you have used this tool, right? So when we're talking about MLOps or when it comes to any interview, it's about how you deliver, how you speak the language of that MLOps, right? We help you in feeding that confidence. We help you in narrating that story. And fourth step is what we're calling it as a technical job support. So now let's say you got a job, you're already working. So now you're stuck in your job, you need some assistance, you need some decoding, some sample architecture, a review, a decoding, a debugging your code. You can use this technical job support. So this is how the people succeed. And I will be a trainer for this program. So for this next 3 months as well, so I will be traveling with you. So this is about resume preparation and technical job support. But only difference if you go to the topmost plan. Okay, so 1 second, let's talk about topmost plan. So I will be answering whether you need a programming skills or not, etc. Krishan, I will come back to you. So the only difference in topmost plan where you get a max value, obviously most of the peoples they like to go for advanced plan, but okay, here is something which is actually buzzing me for the last 2 hours. There is some surprise. My team is asking me to announce, but I said, no, I'm not going to give a surprise. But my team is insisting you need to give that surprise. But I'm not going to reveal this surprise. After discussing about the curriculum, I'm going to reveal this surprise. Anyway, what is advanced plus plan? Where you get some maximum value. So instead of you getting 6 months support, you get 1 year support. And again, you have bonus returns opportunity. And again, so you don't want to wait for 3 months to complete this program. You can get, what if I say you can get started immediately with the support? Yes, what we do in a topmost plan, we give instant access to our previous batch recordings, which I mean the current batch recordings, which is still going on. You get access to the recordings immediately after you sign up for advanced plus plan. I mean, you can get started with recordings anytime with the debugging support by me. And starting from 13th of September, you can get started with the live sessions again, right? So this is about 3 different awesome plans we have. And if you want to check the pricing in USD, advanced plus plan would be costing around $779, and advanced plan would be costing around $679, and basic plan would be costing around $629. Okay. So yeah, these are the 3 different plans. The features are same. Okay. So the next comes, okay, surprise. No, I'm not going to reveal it. No, I'm not. Okay. But yeah, before we discuss about the surprise. So yeah, so I'm just going to go back to my AWS account. I'm going to say, show you whether I have a model here deployed or not. Then we will go back to discussing about the curriculum, because before I go back, I showed you whether my model is deployed or not. So let me just go ahead and hit on this refresh button. Yep, here we go. Successfully, you can see now my model is deployed to the production. It's running in production. If I go inside this endpoint, this is where my model is deployed. And you can see there is something called URL here. This is what we call it as a Rust API that we have created, which will be used by your front-end developers to build beautiful applications. And we also have an option to test this model here itself. As an MLOps engineer, we'll be testing it. I'm not going to test it right now. I'm going to test it after discussing about the curriculum. Okay. Can we? Yep. Perfect. Let's get started. Yep. So before we discussing about the curriculum, I will definitely ask you to check this testimonial. So he is Karthik. I love him because the way he could able to crack different jobs, let's say 6 offers, 121% hike. But the demand for MLOps is right fit today in a market. So it's a right opportunity to get started because Karthik is a result. And you can also go ahead and look into a lot of testimonials. We have Harsha. See, the testimonials is all about not talking about, let's say, what he offers is getting. So we will be talking about how the hands-on were. Do you like the hands-on or not? I will be literally asking what you have, any things that you want to improve on our program. So you go ahead and see what people says, right? So it's in our PDF itself. I'll be sharing this PDF. So he is Rohit. He got 75% of hike. But awesome thing is Rohit could able to crack the job within 15 days after completing a program. Obviously, he signed up for the topmost plan and he got access to the recordings. Parallelly, he's attending the live session. And she is actually Dipali. She is completely coming from non-technical background. She is coming from mechanical engineering background. Check her testimonial. Okay, now let's get started. I will share this PDF. This is where we have A to Z, everything related to our curriculum. So I will go to this curriculum. We do have totally 15 modules, 1 5. Okay. Okay, so let's get started with our module number 1. So module number 1 is all about getting introduced in the world of MLOps. Okay. So now let's get started. So now let's go ahead and discuss what we have in this introduction to MLOps. So this is where we'll be diving deep into understanding the entire world of MLOps, understanding different tools. So this is where we'll be understanding and discussing about, so again, how it is different from, let's say we are talking about DevOps, not just DevOps, there is something called AI Ops, Model Ops, LLM Ops, FM Ops, Git Ops. We'll be discussing that. The very important discussion in our module number 1 is we'll be discussing about the CI/CD production case study. We will be taking a 5 different organizations case study. We'll discuss how they have implemented automation, right? So saying that, then comes a module number 2. In a module number 2, this is where we are talking about overview of ML and MLOps stages, right? So this is where we'll be talking about, yes, we talked about importance of versioning. So this is where we'll be discussing about versioning your data, the code, models, features, containers, and different kind of testings we do in MLOps, the strategies in implementing CI/CD, reproducibility, deployment, monitoring. And very importantly, this is where we'll be discussing about architectures, open source architecture, getting started with Kubeflow, Apache Airflow, MLflow, Metaflow, Kedro, ZenML, MLrun, CML. There are a lot of open source tools. And then comes the cloud native tools. This is where we'll be discussing about how you can able to build a level 4 architecture or level 3 or level 2 on AWS. How does the architecture looks like? AWS, GCP, and Azure, right? And let's say I'm talking about the demo here. This demo, what kind of an architecture that is actually running behind it. This is the architecture. Okay, don't get freak out. This is the architecture. So this architecture, it took around hardly 10 to 15 hours for us to build during the program. So this is the sort of an architecture that we'll be deploying, but I'm not going to discuss about this architecture right now. So yeah, we are far away before we need to understand a lot of concepts. So then comes module number 3 is all about Git. So this is where we'll be diving deep into understanding MLOps practices for Git, understanding commands, branching, and collaborations, etc. And module number 4 is where we'll be getting started with CI/CD strategies on top of AWS, Azure, GCP, and GitHub Actions. So here we are talking about CI/CD for AWS. So I'm not talking about CI/CD again. You to go ahead and work as DevOps engineer. No, how we adapt this CI/CD for AWS. So again, so let's say from module number 3 is where hands-on starts. Every module from module number 3 would be hands-on. So module number 4. So this is where we'll be getting started with understanding the complete AWS DevOps tools, understanding code pipelines, code build, code deploy, and building a complete end-to-end DevOps pipelines here to get started. So then comes, we are talking about GCP DevOps. We'll be exploring all the GCP tools like Cloud Run, Cloud Build, Cloud Deploy, Artifact Registry, and building a complete end-to-end DevOps pipelines to understand how these tools work. Similarly, getting started with Azure DevOps, understanding all the DevOps tools like understanding boards, repos, pipelines, test plans, and using the concept of infrastructure as a code on top of Azure DevOps and getting started with ML pipelines, right? So here comes Azure DevOps pipelines as well. So getting started with that. So then comes GitHub Actions, right? So getting started with GitHub Actions, right? Using, let's say, not the cloud-based tool, open source tool, and getting started with building a complete end-to-end end-to-end DevOps pipelines by using GitHub Actions as well. So then comes module number 5. So module number 5 is, this is where we'll be diving into the world of Dockers and Kubernetes. So Dockers are everywhere, right? So we'll be getting started with Dockers and Kubernetes for MLOps. Okay, that's what the important scenario is here. So we'll be getting started with Dockers, understanding the foundations, talking about different Docker commands, understanding what is Docker registries, Docker hub it is, and let's say talking about what is this Docker daemon. So talking about Docker network types, Docker compass, and here comes various different projects. There are assignments as well. Yes, we'll be getting started with learning how to Dockerize a software, how to Dockerize a machine learning model, how to work with a Docker Compass to build end-to-end machine learning pipelines as well. So then comes getting started with Kubernetes. Kubernetes for MLOps. Understanding complete the world of Kubernetes, right? Then understanding different components of Kubernetes, understanding what is this worker node? What is this something called control plane? Then understanding Kubernetes resources, right? And where we deploy these models, right? So we understand all these Kubernetes resources. And yes, so here we go. We will be going ahead and building a complete, deploying a machine learning models on top of Kubernetes clusters as well. So then comes a module number 6. We do have multiple modules for Dockers and Kubernetes. Module number 6 is again Kubernetes deployment strategy. So here, when it comes to Kubernetes deployment strategy, so here we will be working on any other cloud platforms. Let's say we'll be picking AWS EKS or AKS, right? I'm sorry. So AWS has EKS, Azure has AKS, GCP has GKE. We'll be using any cloud-based Kubernetes infrastructure. So we'll be going ahead and deploying this Kubernetes on top of this cloud managed Kubernetes infrastructure, right? Where we deploy the models. Module number 7, the very important module. I will say every module is the important module, but module number 7, this is where we explore open source tools as well and cloud source tools. This is where we'll be getting started with, let's say, understanding data versioning, code versioning, experiment tracking, how to use model registries, getting started with model monitoring, and as well as infrastructure as a code for MLOps. So this is where we'll be getting started with AWS CDK. I did mention about CDK, which stands for Cloud Deployment Kit. So how to use this CDK to deploy the infrastructure on top of AWS. We'll be building one in a project where you can go ahead and deploy this infrastructure on top of AWS. Then comes, we will be talking about high level overview of model management tools. So this is where we will be getting started with open source tools. Like I discussed about importance of MLflow. There are multiple projects in MLflow, right? So this is where we have, let's say we'll be getting started with MLflow, and we'll be learning how to go ahead and deploy the MLflow stack on a cloud. Then I will be using that MLflow stack that I deployed. I will be building, training and deploying the models with that. Okay. So then comes, let's say we're talking about DVC, data versioning tool. We discussed about importance of versioning a data. We'll be getting started with open source tool and understanding how to use DVC CLI and getting started with versioning the data on the cloud, right? So then comes module number 8. We do have a dedicated module for feature stores. We discussed about feature stores. So here we'll be discussing about various different feature store options, like feature store on top of AWS SageMaker, Vertex AI, let's say Databricks, Tecton, Feast, HubSpot. So here we'll be using this Feast, a very famous open source feature store. We'll be building our own feature store. A feature store has two feature stores. There is something called offline, there is online. What is that? I will be discussing that during the program. Okay, saying that, we are arriving to module number 9. So if you call someone as a beast, module number 9 is a beast. So module number 9, this is where we build what we call it as this level 4 architecture projects. So we will be getting started with Amazon SageMaker, understanding all the different components of Amazon SageMaker, right? So then comes, we'll be building what we call it as Amazon SageMaker pipelines. So this pipeline that, which I'm showing you a demonstration. So we'll be building it for 15 hours, somewhere near to 10 to 15 hours. So this is where we'll be building this level 4 architecture project. We'll be deploying this end-to-end MLOps pipelines using Amazon SageMaker. And then here comes the GCP Vertex AI. So we'll be getting started with Vertex AI, similar to how we started with Amazon SageMaker. So we'll be exploring all the different components of Vertex AI, and we'll be going ahead and building this complete end-to-end MLOps pipelines on Vertex AI. So then comes Azure, like Azure MLOps. So we'll be getting started with Azure Machine Learning Studio, similar to Amazon SageMaker and Vertex AI. So we'll be getting started with building an end-to-end MLOps version 2 pipelines. We'll be using a latest SDK, right? So then comes module number 10. We will be focusing on the open source tool, Kubeflow. So Kubeflow, which is again followed by Kubernetes. So Kubeflow is a framework that runs on Kubernetes, which is a followed by module. So we'll be exploring, let's say if an organization, they don't want to use cloud-based tools like AWS, they don't want to use Azure or GCP, they want to go for open source. So those organizations, they use Kubeflow. So here we'll be learning how to deploy the Kubeflow stack, step number 1, then going ahead and creating the end-to-end ML pipelines on top of it. Awesome, right? So then comes, if I scroll down, we do have a new addition, the module number 11. So this is where we'll be getting started with ML ops for LLMs, or what we call it as LLM ops and Gen AI, right? So this is where we will be talking about the operation side. Let's say we discussed about the architecture previously in our demo. So how to get started and get started with responsible AI and how to go ahead and implement responsible AI. But we will be also talking about, let's say, how do you
how do you make your LLMs into the production, the four different pillars of how to get any Gen AI models to the production. We talk about what is RAG and let's say what is this RAG, our prompt engineering, our fine tuning, our trained model. And one of the hands-on that we do in this particular module, so getting started with responsible AI. So how to go ahead and implement guardrails or responsible AI, whatever the words, because we call it in different words. We use Amazon Bedrock and we implement guardrails. And we talk about other strategies like FMOps, what is this, LLMOps, and LLMOps pipelines. So then comes module number 12. This is where monitoring starts. So once we deploy the models, understanding model monitoring on every cloud, discussing about different model monitoring tools they offer. So here we pick any one of a cloud and we'll be getting started with implementing a complete end-to-end model monitoring as well as infrastructure monitoring that we're talking about, right? Okay, so then comes here we have module number 13. So module number 13, what we're talking about, let's say commercial tools, right? So not limited to cloud or open source. Here we are talking about commercial tools as well. So we'll be also exploring the commercial tools. And in this module number 13, we'll be providing a demo because we don't ask you to do hands-on because commercial tools has to be paid some subscription, but there are free subscriptions you can also try. Yes. So then comes module number 14, post deployment challenges. So deploying the model, the job is not done. After deploying the model, what are the challenges that you face? So those things we discussed. Post deployment challenges, challenges related to software engineering, software challenges related to ML model deployment, for an example, right? So then comes, let's say we are talking about one project that we'll be building it here. So we are talking about using open source tools like Evidently AI for model monitoring, right? So then comes module number 15, right? Module number 15, let's say here we are talking about self-paced videos. A module number 15 is where we have, let's say this is basically a pre-recorded videos because the topics that we cover in module number 15 will be the based on the topics that we already covered in till module number 14. So here we'll be getting started with Jenkins, right? Which is again part of CI/CD tools that we're talking about, right? So then we are talking about, then we are talking about, let's say, one of the project again, which will be built by using Jenkins and end-to-end ML pipelines. So then we are talking about, let's say, Apache Airflow. There are multiple projects in Jenkins as well. So then we are talking about Apache Airflow. So Apache Airflow is again one of our open source tool that we'll be getting started. So when it comes to Apache Airflow, so we'll be discussing about how to use Apache Airflow to get started, talking about DAGs, Airflows, operators, and we'll be also building two different projects in Apache Airflow. So getting started with ETL data pipelines. So getting started with building end-to-end ML pipelines. So then already we explored Kubernetes above. So this is where we'll be getting started with, let's say, Kubernetes on top of GKE, and Kubernetes on top of Azure, right? Perfect. So then comes, we'll be getting started with Terraform as well, right? So Terraform which is a tool again, which we will be using it for infrastructure as a code. We'll be getting started with Terraform and again, building two different projects, understanding how to get started with building an infrastructure on top of premises as well as AWS. Then final topic would be Argo workflow. So Argo workflow, which is again open source platform, which is on top of Kubernetes. We'll be getting started with that. So this is where we'll be again exploring how to get started with Argo workflow, integration that with Kubernetes, and building one end-to-end scheduled level 4 architecture project on top of Argo workflow as well. And if I scroll down further, so here you can able to go ahead and explore the skills that you can able to master, the skills that possible skills that you can able to add it on top of your demo session, the tools that you're going to master here. And then if you scroll down further, so you can check the same pricing structure here. And if you scroll down further, so you can able to go ahead and check the testimonials, right? So yes, go ahead and listen to the testimonials here. So obviously our participants does talks for ourselves. So saying that, folks, so now let me just enable the session for Q&A. Before we go for Q&A, so definitely my team asked you to reveal the surprise. Like I'm going to reveal the surprise. So what is the surprise? Considering, so let's say this is like a ritual that we do for every batches. For the first, let's say 5 to 10 registrations, they get quite an opportunity, not for everyone, but for the first 10 to, 5 to 10 registrations. So we call it as free upgradation offer. This is only for next 5 days. So what is this free upgradation offer is nothing but, so this offer is still, let's say we are talking about 25th of August. So far it's for 10 seats. We do have just 5 seats available because We do have folks who tried signing up for the last batches. They already started signing up. We do have 5 more opportunities to be part. So what do you mean by free upgradation offer is nothing but, so here comes, most of the folks would be interested in taking what we call it as advance or maybe advance plus plan. So consider that if you're someone who's looking for taking the topmost plan, or if you're someone who's looking for taking the middle plan, which we're calling it as advanced plan, right? So here comes the free upgradation offer. So in that particular scenario, if you're looking for the top advanced plan, which is a middle one, so all you need to do, you just need to go ahead and register for basic plan, which is a middle one. Then I will be going ahead and we will be upgrading you to advanced plan. So that means you register for basic, but you get advanced. As simple as that. So let's say, if you're looking for topmost plan, which is advanced plus plan, then you simply go ahead and register for advanced. Then we will be upgrading you to advanced plus plan. So that's how it's going to work. So as simple as that. And again, so we do have EMI options on all the plans. So starting from 1,700 to 1,800 rupees, and major credit cards and debit cards, you can get started. And this is only for 5 seats. That means if you register for basic right now, you get advanced. If you register for advanced, you get advanced plus plan. And please listen to the testimonials, right? So then you can take an action. Ask me a million questions. Let me answer your questions right now. So saying that, so now I'm going to read some of the questions that you already asked in the chat window. So yes, so if you have any questions, I would recommend you to directly DM, because there's a lot of messages. I just disabled the chat, so you can directly go ahead and DM if you have any specific questions. Let me start answering that particular questions one by one. Okay. So meantime, I will also enable your microphone. Yep, because we can spend a lot of time here. So you can ask more questions that you do have in a microphone as well. Okay. So 1 second, let me just try to enable the microphone. I can see the messages are pouring in. Please, I would recommend you to DM, because there's a lot of messages here. It would be trouble for me to go ahead and capture it. I have just DM'd group messages. 1 second, folks. I'm going to stop my screen, and I'm just going to give a permission to enable the microphone. Yeah, folks, get started. Let me just reshare my screen again.
Hello.
Hi, sir.
Yeah, so perfect. 1 second. You just give your name. You just give me what kind of a work you do, and then we can start talking. Please, let's get started.
Yeah, sure. My name is Naveed. Right now, I'm into site reliability engineer and DevOps. So, is it worthwhile joining MLOps, like taking course in MLOps?
See, good question. But let's say here, I don't want to talk about the statistics in the internet or something like that. But I will talk about the reality. Okay, so let's say when I'm talking about, let's say DevOps engineers, let's talk about what's their eligibility to get into the program. See, when I'm talking about
Hello.
MLOps, more
Hello.
into the
Hello.
automation, right? So I would recommend others to wait till I mention this, then you can enable your mic and talk it. So DevOps engineers are perfect fit to be transformed into MLOps, because you're already
Seriously.
coming from the 1 second. Let me just mute that. So let's say when we're talking about DevOps engineers are perfect fit to be part of MLOps, because you're already coming from the operations background. You do understand CI/CD. So you do understand source versioning and other tools. So that means, let's say here, for you to upskill into MLOps would be easier. And again, when we're talking about, let's say an example of Karthik, right? Let's say if I go back to the architecture. So let's say when I'm talking about Karthik, so he is from, let's say DevOps engineering background, right? So 1 second, let me just scroll up. So let's say when I'm talking about Karthik, he is from DevOps engineering background. But here I don't want to talk about hard statistics outside the market. I will talk about my data. So Karthik hardly took, let's say around after completing the program. I mean, so what Karthik has done, so Karthik has also taken the topmost plan. I mean, once we started completing the program, within a week, he had a job already. That means obviously it took some time for it to get the 6 different offers, but he has a job already. And you know what happened with Karthik? Let's say he got a 6 different offers. That means he has a freedom of going in and selecting the best offer that he can select, right? So obviously it's not just about the hike, it's also about the organization where you can see your future yourself, right? So if I want to give a couple of examples, Karthik is a DevOps engineer, and here comes the Rohit. So Rohit is a DevOps engineer. He is now placed in Capgemini. You can go ahead and listen to it. He got 75% of hike. So because you did ask for DevOps, I'm just giving 2 examples here. People who are coming from DevOps engineering background. If they can do it, I believe any DevOps engineers could able to do it here.
Hello.
Yeah, as you have mentioned, hike here, like what would be the base pay, I mean to say, starting pay for MLOps engineer? Is it relatively higher to DevOps, or is like it's equal to DevOps?
100% it is higher than DevOps. There's no doubt about it. See, like I will tell you because some
Can you
people's,
hear me also?
if you go ahead and check the testimonial here, some folks they
Hello.
would. 1 second, I will be coming back to you. You can just wait. I could able to hear you. You talked about EMI. I'm going to answer your question. So let's talk about Rohit. Okay. See, let's say when I'm talking about pay, doesn't the pay is it's not based on, let's say for an example, the pay is always based on what's your current CTC, isn't it? Right? It's not about, okay, let's say they're going to pay this much amount. It's based on the hike basically, right? So here I can speak out the numbers in terms of hike here. So let's say Rohit has 75% of hike. So from this current CTC, he's got 75. So when I'm talking about Karthik, you just imagine what's your current DevOps salary, and let's say Karthik got 121% hike. Just replace Karthik with you and see what is a 121% would hike looks like, and what would be the 75% hike would be looking like. But if I want to talk about the statistics, I did already mention. Let's say when I'm talking about an average number, let's say someone who has let's say 2 to 3 years of experience in India, it would be somewhere around 35 lakhs. I'm talking about 2 to 3. And in Bangalore, let's say if I want to talk about specific city, 47, right? So, but we'll took to an hard facts that I know, right? That means this is the hike that I have seen with my peoples here, right? So this is it, Navid.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I'm good.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for asking your question. So, folks, you can also go ahead and unmute your mic. You can talk. I will also answer your questions in a chat as well. I can see someone
Hi,
else is
Sarath.
asking.
Yeah, hi, Sarath.
Yeah. Yeah, I will go one by one. I know that you have questions. I'm going to spend a lot of time. So, may I
Uh,
know who is talking here? Sweta
it's
Varma.
if I'm from using ID from Shweta, my name is Nitish.
Yeah, got it, got it. Yeah,
So
please go ahead.
currently, I am from telecom background, but I have no experience in DevOps and such things because I am not working in developer background. So I am
Got
just
it.
in the network operations.
Got
So
it.
I am just confused in this field. Is this availability to I will cop up in how much time? I'm just bit confusing because
Got
I
it.
have to
Got it.
start from the scratch to cop up in this field. So could you please
Got it.
brief me how can I cop up?
Definitely. Definitely, yes. Let me just explain that. So first, let's say when I'm talking about prerequisites for this program. So let's say if you're coming from any IT background, you understand how software works, you're very much welcome to get started with MLOps program. Okay. But
Okay.
you commonly will be having one more common question. Do I need to have any programming skills? Definitely yes, but not an expertise here, because as an MLOps engineer, you'll be closely working with other stakeholders like data scientists, data engineers. So the basics of Python would help. I'm not talking about expertise here, a basics of Python, understanding basic conditions, let's say it can be variables, understanding loops, etc. Those would work. And again, I can see there are folks who already asked this particular question in a chat window. Let me also brief you. So when I'm talking about the to get started with MLOps, so you need, let's say, having some basics would help. It can be any programming basics you have. Definitely, you can cope up with Python as well. So when I'm talking about MLOps, it's not a data science program. So here you don't need any prior data science skills to get started with MLOps. So you just need to have an idea. It's similar to the example that I compared DevOps versus software developer. DevOps engineers, they focus on delivering the software. Similarly, MLOps engineer would be focusing on delivering an AI to the production. But still, you need to have an idea what data scientist does. So yes, in this MLOps program that we do have is not a data science program. So we don't teach data science here. This is not a Python programming session. We don't teach Python programming. So that doesn't mean we don't build models. We build models. There are codes here. I will be going through each and every line of a code. And if you ask question, okay, say I don't have much basics on Python, what do I do? So obviously you can see from past couple of batches, let's say I'm talking about this free resources that I'm talking about. Under this free resources, this is optional. We give access to the Python resources. As I mentioned, this Python is not part of this particular program. It's out of a scope. So we give this Python tutorials. People who sign up, they can request for this Python tutorials. You can refresh your Python basics and you can get started. So that's another benefits that we are adding. And again, so that is the minimum prerequisites to get started. Varma, sorry, yeah. So
Okay.
Shweta Varma, I
Okay.
lost your name.
Okay, thank you. Mean to say that I have to just try to learn Python initially before or simultaneously joining this project,
Yeah,
right?
simultaneously, because
Yeah.
when we're talking about our MLOps as a job, you don't do write Python every day. And even when we're talking about our MLOps program, on day one, we don't get started with Python. So there's a lot of modules like CI/CD, Dockers, for an example. So we don't use much Python there. So yeah, so you
Be-
can get started parallelly. Yeah, so you
Okay,
can
because
sign
such
up.
things are totally new for me, CI/CD, such things, DevOps, and such multiple things I have seen, listen
Correct.
today newly. So that's why I'm just asking. Okay.
Yeah, perfect. It does work. See, like, let's say, forget about anything that I mentioned. So let's say you can transform into any IT industry, it is possible. So even if you want to become a data scientist, MLOps engineers, data engineer, it can be done. But it's actually the efforts from you, right? So what we say for the peoples, as a trainer, I'm here to serve you, and you would be having a direct connection with me. I would be sharing my phone numbers directly to you. So it's all about, let's say, once you sign up for a program, the amount of time that you're going to spend during the program, making sure you don't attend all the live sessions, have questions, join the debugging sessions, right? So as I mentioned, let's say again, when we're talking about debugging sessions, I did also mention there are two types of debugging sessions. One is scheduled. At least every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we'll be having a debugging sessions. So we'll be having this debugging sessions between 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. IST. If you're available at that time, you join. Otherwise, you go for, let's say, unscheduled debugging sessions. Unscheduled debugging sessions are like, okay, based on mutual availability of you and me, we schedule the sessions, a one-on-one. So that's again how it works. So considering those, if you have done all those efforts, definitely you can able to crack the job. So I will tell you one scenario. So let's say I'm talking about Dipali. So Dipali is coming from completely non-technical background. Obviously, what happened, she's working in a support engineer, cloud support engineer. You know, cloud support engineer, they don't do much technical. So she's coming from mechanical engineering background. So let's say hardly if I'm talking about Karthik, or let's say if I'm talking about Rohit or Harshad, they took less than 1 month. Karthik just took 1 week, and let's say Rohit took 15 days to figure out the job. But obviously, when I'm talking about Deepali, I have sat with her more than 10 to 15 JD decoding session itself. It took 2 to 3 months for her to figure out the job, considering she is coming from non-technical background. But she did follow the approach. Each and every time when she is attending the interview, I said, okay, just come. If interview went good or bad, just come and share me the feedback. What happened in the interview? So I thoroughly collected all the feedbacks. I could able to figure out where she is making mistakes, and I could able to recommend something. Maybe you need to go ahead and watch the specific recordings. You might have not have watched it thoroughly, and giving some strategies. Okay, what could be the counter answers, right? Because we collected this feedbacks from all the participants. So that's how we have enough data to serve you at the time of debugging sessions as well. So when you're getting started with resume preparation session. So why am I providing this? Because let's say I'm proud of Karthik. Let's say I'm proud of Karthik. I'm proud of, let's say, Rohit and Harsha here or any other peoples, but I'm very much proud at Dipali, because I'm proud of myself. Because let's say if I could able to help Dipali to transform into MLOps, I'm pretty much confident that we can help you, anyone else, to transform, because we have a proof. That's as simple.
Uh, Hi, Shiro.
Okay.
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi,
Yeah, I can
Hello.
see the, yeah, I will come to the another person again. So I can see
hey,
there's a
hi,
one
Satak.
person who's,
Abhishek
yeah,
here.
Yeah,
Abhishek. Yeah, Abhishek. So I
yeah,
will talk
Yeah,
to
Satak,
Abhishek, but I will
I'm.
come to you next. Okay. There's one
Sir,
woman who
I'm
is.
also in the queue.
yeah. Sharath, I have one doubt. Actually, I am already an
Hey,
MLOps
hi,
engineer.
Satak.
Abhishek,
Okay.
just give me a minute.
Uh,
I'm sorry. Like let's me complete our question. I will come to you. Yeah, yeah. Go ahead, please.
yeah.
Go ahead. I'm listening to you.
Have but I have a few limited knowledge in Azure. Okay. So I have deployed batch pipelines till now, but I didn't have experience with the real-time endpoints and also other clouds like GCP and
GCP
AWS.
and
I
okay,
have no
got it.
knowledge. Will it be helpful for me?
100% yes, because our curriculum exactly covers what you're asking. So let's say we do have, see, few folks, they might fear. Usually they ask some questions. So will you be able to complete all this in 100 hours that I'm talking about? Yes, we are doing this batch almost for 17th or 18th batch. I have completed it once, twice, 13th, 16th, or 17 times. I'm going to complete it again. So usually our
Okay.
plan is to, the current batch we are doing, we have planned it for 100 hours, but it is going more than 100 hours. It's completely okay. We're not going to skip any topics. So you'll be having a traces of everything.
Okay.
So, and again, you can
So
see
maybe it,
uh,
it helps me to learn in AWS and also in GCP as
100%
well,
yes.
right?
You can see
Yeah.
we do
Any
have
real time,
AWS
I mean, real time deployments is there, and not the
100%
batch
everything.
deployments.
Everything that we do here, yes, you have learned batch. Yes, we will be doing real time here. There's no doubt about it. So let's say when I'm talking
Okay,
about
okay.
module number 9 here, all the models that we deploy would be on a real time endpoint itself. So not a
Okay,
worry.
okay.
So take a
Okay.
look at the
Thank you.
curriculum. I
Sir,
will quick
Hello,
go
sir.
to
hi
Abhishek.
Sarath.
Hey, hi, Sarthak.
I will go to Abhishek.
Yeah,
I will come
Hello,
yes,
to
sir.
hi, Sarthak.
Abhishek and I will come to next person. Yes, Abhishek, go ahead.
Yes, yeah, hi, Sarthak. I am working as a solution architect in DevOps. My question
Great.
is like, it is only for to switching the job. For, curriculum is focusing on the switching the job like from the DevOps to MLOps, or is there any certification that you provided? And
See, we do.
what
Yeah,
about
complete.
your storytelling? Like, I'm not working any MLOps project right now, but how we can give the stories to any uh, in the interview? And
Good
that was my
question.
question.
Good question. So here is the thing. Let's say if the first thing is, let's say, obviously the curriculum that we're talking about, yes, for you to transform into AI industry. So definitely, do you have any other option to not to switch, but still you want to work as a DevOps engineer? You can definitely not. I'm not saying no. See, you are a DevOps engineer, but you want to still work as a DevOps engineer. But let's say you're learning so much, which you can able to get you the better opportunity. But if you want to still work as a DevOps engineer, it does works. But which part of a DevOps that you can work, because there might be an organization who, let's say, in case if you have an internal project within your organization, maybe you want to switch it internally as a, you can still serve as a DevOps engineer, but you would be helping data science team to build a CI/CD pipelines. But I don't think so. Your capabilities are more after completing this program. See, I will tell you what, Rohit, when I'm talking about, when after completing the program, he is hunting for DevOps jobs as well, because he's already he didn't have a job because he already quit and he's learning, because he has a fear. Everyone would have a fear. I would say I did said that Rohit concentrate on MLOps because a lot of opportunities, but he also constantly hiring for DevOps. But you just listen to him testimonial. But when he hunted for DevOps job, he also got a DevOps job. But I said definitely you'll be getting a better hike in MLOps. But as I mentioned, he got 75% of hike because there's a more demand for MLOps engineers today. But you have more, you are, I mean, your capabilities are more here, but I will never ask you to just stay in a DevOps itself. And answering your second question, so how do you narrate the story? Because at the end of the day, you are taking this program to upskill and learn to understand what's how MLOps works in a real time, right? So because as a
Yes.
DevOps engineer, you can definitely we can go ahead and mention an experience in a resume. So even though you are working in as a DevOps engineer itself, you have helped a data science team within your organization to build an end-to-end MLOps pipeline. So let's say when we're talking about this module number 9 or module number 7 or module number 10 projects, they're fully eligible to mention on your resume. So basically, we narrate this particular story based on what you have learned. What's your confidence in this particular program, whether it's AWS, Azure, or GCP? So that's how the storytelling works.
Hello.
Abhishek.
Oh,
Hello.
Sarath,
thank you,
quick
sir.
question
Hi
here.
Sarath. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah. I will
Sarath,
go
can
to
you hear me?
Divya. Yeah,
Sir, can
Yeah,
you
I
hear
can
me?
hear you. The another person.
quick
I will
question,
just
Miss. Can you send us the payment link, Miss? Because
yes,
you have.
yes. I'm going to share it
Yeah.
right away. So here we go. I'm
Hello.
going to share the links. Yes, you can see I'm sharing a link in your chat window. The first link is for the registration. The second link where you can go ahead and download the curriculum. And third link where you can able to download the ebooks as well, which I promised. And below is my contact informations. You can go ahead and contact me in this below number.
Hello.
Yeah, so please
Hi.
go ahead. Yeah, I can
Yeah.
able to Divya.
So my question is this, okay? So I am looking at the curriculum, I'm looking at the agenda and everything. So most of the content, I mean, I'm just sharing my observation, okay? So
Go ahead,
most of
please.
the content that is present over here is very easily available or clearly available, at least the introduction, the theoretical part. What will be of value addition over here is the your practical sessions, right? Like
Hands on. Yeah.
hands on.
Yeah.
Now for the hands on, it's
Yeah.
just my opinion. Okay, I might be wrong
Go ahead,
as well.
please.
So
Go ahead.
for just for the hands-off session, if we look at only count in the hands-on sessions, I still
Mm-hmm.
feel the fee is slightly high.
Good. So Divya, this is, let's say, never, because I'm not going to convince anyone to take our program, because I would ask you to do your own research, right? So because I would recommend you to definitely to go ahead and do a deep research in the internet. You can use ChatGPT. You can ask to do deep research. You can go ahead and Google it. So
No,
let's say
that
you can.
anyway I can do.
No,
What
no.
I'm trying to
Let
understand
me
over
just.
here is
Yeah. See, let's
what
say
is the
let me just.
value addition that I'll be getting on these sessions. That was I'm trying to understand. See,
One is
obviously I can
hands-on.
use any AI agent to do endless research, but all I'm
Good.
trying to understand here humbly is what is the value
Yeah.
addition that I'll get for that 43K.
See, one is hands-on. Okay, let's talk about the real-time scenarios, right? So let's say here, let's talk about what is Site One Technologies is first of all. So we are actually coming from, we don't just do training. So we are actually into two phases. One is training and corporate training and servicing. So we work with a lot of, let's say, organizations. So you can go ahead and check our profiles. So we have helped banks like Royal Bank of Scotland, Minion Labs in Bangalore, few organizations in UK. So what we have done, so we have, let's say when you are training the Royal Bank of Scotland, so we have trained their organization. So on AWS, transforming their team and their data to AWS. So we help them teach the technology, as well as we have helped them in developing initial MVPs for their organizations to transform to AI. So that means we have a lot of lessons that we have learned when we are working with a lot of organizations. We know what works, what doesn't works for any organization. And again, when I'm talking about the first part is hands-on, what people's like. So that means, let's say all these projects that I'm talking about, Divya here. So let's say there are around 28 projects. All these projects will be done through the live sessions. Whatever I do on my screen, parallel you'll be replicating on your screen. That's a value addition. So that means, so let's say here we have a structure. So that means you make sure that you learn everything. All the projects will be built during the live session itself. And we do also have some assignments. That's a first step. The value addition is in hands-on. That means a personal care that is given for every participant here. And again, we have a structure saying that, okay, we have a debugging sessions where you spend unlimited number of minutes. You come, you discuss about your story, you understand, you discuss what's your pain, what's happening. So then comes, as I mentioned, the value addition is basically the post completion of a program. So where I'm talking about the support. So where the support is actually structured, right? So consider that you have a skill, great, perfect. So that is the first phase. Second phase, how do you have your solid resume? So how do you make your solid resume? Great. Then how making sure helping your optimizing your job portals, and very importantly, where we spend more time, how do you prepare for a technical round of an interview, right? So then that's where we pitch in, and we help you in decoding these JDs, because as I mentioned already, we have a lot of lessons, the lessons that we learned by helping all these candidates here, right? So we know how the technical round of interview goes, right? So how does a 50% of questions will fire, and how remaining 50% of questions will fire, and how to narrate that particular story that I'm talking about. Because here, when you are attending a technical round of an interview, there is some technical stuff that you'll be solving, and you need to demonstrate your expertise. So consider that when you have, let's say, 4 to 5 years of experience, or minimal experience, you'll see 3 rounds of interview. And some, let's say when you're applying for senior level of positions, you have 4 rounds, 5 rounds for an example. How does each and every level of interview would look like? Let's say
Hello.
finally you'll be
All
sitting with
right.
a manager, right? So then he will be evaluating your expertise. So you need to have some story that convinces your expertise, right? So you will be having what? Trial and error.
Hello.
Are you
Okay.
capable of, Karthik, I will come to you 1 minute. So consider that, could you able to win the first interview itself? No, interview is always a trial and error. You have one interview, you might fail. Again, we collect a feedback where we help you in optimizing the option number 2, right? So that's how the value is being
Okay, so
provided.
basically, apart from the hands-on, that is the core actual takeaway. You're saying post-course, support is what is under value addition, which is what I'm hearing and understanding.
Not just a value addition, it's about the curriculum. So that's what I'm trying to say. Curriculum plus it's the post completion of a program. See,
Yeah,
Divya here.
collated content becomes a curriculum. I understand that. So
Yes.
the other
See,
question I have is, yeah, I understood, Sarath.
maybe I will come one by one, because I already given more time. I will come to next persons. Please stay. I will spend more minutes with you. Okay. I will go to the next person now. Please go
Hello.
ahead. Yep. Yeah, I can listen to
Uh,
you.
Sir, my name is Prashant Patil actually.
Yeah, Prashant, go ahead, please.
Sir, actually currently I'm running my own organization,
Good for
software
you.
organization,
Perfect. Okay, go ahead.
where I am providing ERP enterprise software to the manufacturing companies.
Okay.
But right now, the day by day, the demand of the customers is increasing. What they are asking the questions. Hmm?
Okay.
Actually, they have local database. Hello.
Okay, go ahead, listening. Yep.
They have local database of past 10 years.
Okay.
And what they wanted, they said that by voice chat or by typing, whatever
Okay.
they wanted from the database. Hmm? If suppose
Okay.
if they wanted that the sale of the last year for particular X item,
Okay.
on the year of X year, hmm,
Okay.
on the month of X month, hmm,
Got it.
whatever the question which they are asking to the model, they want the answer in the form of graph, whatever the graph, or maybe by the figures,
Okay, I got
whatever
it.
they
I,
want it.
I believe I got your use case. You have some sales data, etc. Let's say you have some.
Whatever it is related to planning, production, whatever
Got
the
it.
queries which is available,
Yeah. So
fully
that means
database is available for local database.
makes sense. You
So
might have a data in a database. You might have some PDF records, etc. Let's
yes,
say
yes,
you
yes,
want.
yes. We have the data in Oracle database as well as in Microsoft SQL Server.
I got it. Yeah. So let's say if you want to build certain kind of an application here. So basically you're looking into generative AI. Okay.
Right.
So yeah, that's a generative AI application. Probably if can I answer that particular question right now? Not, but if you can able to take your time, if you can wait for a couple of minutes, I will take this answer to the last. I will give you the entire answer that you need. You need to build basically a generative application, which is a combination of RAG and you need to have an LLM. I will give you the answer,
Sir,
but
one more question.
yeah, go ahead.
Right now, there are a lot of people is having using different databases. There are more than
Okay,
300 databases available.
sorry for stopping you, Patil, because let's say here, definitely I will give a priority for you, but definitely I would ask you to wait for a couple of minutes because if there is any relevant question related to MLOps, I would definitely take it to first. Okay,
Okay.
definitely I will respect your question. I will answer that because we
Okay.
do also have the programs related to generative AI. It's my duty. I will answer. Please, I will request you wait. Okay.
Yes, yes. It's okay.
So I would recommend you to go for the next question. If anyone has a question, please go ahead and unmute and you can ask your question. Okay, so meantime, I'm going to answer a few questions.
Sarath, I have one question.
Please go ahead. Yeah, Shekhar.
Yeah. So,
Shekhar,
Shubhro, it's basically Shubhro. So
yeah.
basically, yeah, Sarath, I want to know that you have told that the price, whatever price you have put, like the basic plan and the mid range plan, right? So suppose for first 5 seat, suppose anyone means who are buying the advanced plan, so you will make it advanced plus, right? So suppose how it will be decided. Means suppose how we can get to know that my
Good
advanced
question.
plans is.
I know that. So your question is pretty much simple. Let's say if I'm upgrading, let's say if I'm registering for basic plan, how do I know I will get my advanced plan? Or if I'm registering for advanced plan, how do I know I will get the advanced plus plan, right? So because this upgradation happens internally and you'll be also getting an email confirmation saying that your plan has been upgraded to advanced or advanced plus. And again, what is an action? So for an example, let's say if you're registering for advanced plan, you'll get advanced plus plan. What happens in next 24 hours? Those who have an access to advanced plus plan, they get an access to the previous batch recordings immediately. In next 24 hours, you can get started. So one is an email. Another one is if you have advanced plus plan, you get access to the recordings as well. So that could be the action basically. Yeah. So you will get email confirmation. Shubha,
Okay.
yeah.
And one more point, like can we get the today's recording session? This
Yeah.
session.
That's what exactly I'm trying to say. Those folks who have signed up for advance, so they get access to the advance plus plan. You get the previous batch recordings immediately in next 24 hours. You'll get an access to it. Yep. Okay. So here we have a person in a chat asking how many peoples will be having a minimal in a batch. Hardly, yes, we are looking for around 20 peoples in a batch. That's it. So we are looking for 20. That would be the batch size. So may I not trainer name? Actually, yeah, this guy is a trainer. I'm just kidding. It's me. Yes, I will be the trainer for this particular program. So yeah, this is how the session is going to be the more interactive. So let me know if you have any other questions. You can unmute. You can ask me.
Just want to confirm that the timing will be still same in the weekends.
100% yes. So this will be the timing. So every weekend we'll be having the session between 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. IST in Indian time
Means
zone.
to say that Saturday and Sunday, right?
Saturday, yes, only on weekends. So only on weekends only we'll be having a let's say live sessions where we'll be covering the curriculum at that particular time. And on weekdays we will be having what we call it as debugging sessions. Basically, what we call it as doubt clearing sessions. Basically, so maybe you need some more personal time where you need to spend. You have some more questions to ask, right? So and again, as we are talking about, so you'll be having my personal number. You can able to reach out to me anytime. That's again another USP, right? So yeah. So I have one more question from Rohit in a chat. Does it needed prerequisites for any programming? I believe I answered this question. So you need to have some basics of Python or any programming language would help. So those who would like to just refresh your Python basics, as part of this free resources, you get an access to this Python resources that we do have. But as I mentioned, that Python is out of a scope. We don't teach data science or Python in this MLOps program.
I have a question, Saad. Is it
Ajay,
okay?
yeah, Ajay, right? Because I can see it says Ajay, but
Yes.
okay, yeah, Ajay, go ahead.
Yeah, while I appreciate that you mentioned the prerequisite for Python is an optional or semi-optional,
Yeah, semi-optional. That's correct. Yeah, go
but
ahead.
I have I've seen that to get it effective implementation and troubleshooting done, I believe that is quite important, and
Go
uh,
ahead.
I fear if the audience in the course once we join might slow down the session. I mean, I'm all in favor of joining everybody, but just
Yeah.
curious to see if you have some prerequisite really set in the stone so that it doesn't hamper the speed of overall group at some later point of time.
Okay, good. It's a good question. So let's say, for an example, let's talk about an actual scenario as well. So when you're working as an MLOps engineer, so Python is something. It's not something you do. It's not a development kind of a job, right? It's more into the operations. So let's say if I want to build CI/CD pipelines, you don't write Python code. So usually we will be working on ML scripts, right? So or let's say when we are talking about Dockers, let's say you need to be aware about the commands, for an example. So considering my our experience so far, or let's say when you're talking about the slowdown in the session, definitely not. So let's say we would be hardly having 20 peoples in a batch, right? And basically, let's say we are talking about 100 hours of program usually. So here and there, yes. So obviously what happens, I need to give a personal care for everyone. So consider that if Ajay is joining the program, someone called Suresh is joining the program. So how do you think Ajay might not get slowed down somewhere? What I mean by that, let's say I'm giving some steps. So I would ask you to go ahead and log into AWS, click on this button, go ahead and download this package. Maybe Ajay got some network glitch. He might have lost 1 or 2 minutes, right? I need to respect Ajay. I would be very much happy to repeat that 1 or 2 minute step for Ajay as well. Or it can be Suresh, it can be Ramesh. So that's how it's going to be. Yes. But an average, what we have seen 100 or let's say 100 hours or let's say 100 plus, let's say we're talking about maybe 110 or 120 hours maximum that we needed to complete this particular program, Ajay. So yeah, that's how it's going to work.
All right. Yeah, that helps. Thanks. And then recording that you mentioned of the past courses can be accessed to speed up also the
100%.
learning.
Yes,
Okay.
Ajay, as mentioned, if you have an access to the topmost plan, you get access to the recordings immediately. So it depends on what's the way you want to get started. So that's why we made it 3 different plans here. See, consider that if you want, let's say few folks, they say that, okay, I want access to the recordings. I have some time. I will go through these recordings. I will just get some refresh and idea and I will join the live sessions. So I get some more better idea. So there are some people who does that. So, and again, it's not mandate, but like most of the folks who get an access to the recordings, let's say they don't want to wait till 3 months, they want to upskill faster, so they can get started from a day one, maybe from tomorrow, and parallelly they can attend the live sessions. So that's how it's going to work.
Hello,
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
have
Yep.
a question. Can you show me the any real time industry experience you have prepared the ML pipeline in the DevOps? Real time,
So
real
so
time
you mean,
example.
okay, so when you're talking about real-time machine learning model, are you asking, can I show some of my clients projects, clients models here right now?
Can you show me the in this session?
No, I cannot. See, how can I show my clients okay, you mean on the session. So I cannot get any real-time data in the session, right? See, let me just draw the line here. See, what do you mean by real-time? It's not about the data. See, let's say here we are talking about the pipelines. So consider that this is actually the real-time
Yes, I
pipeline.
agree with you. Can you
This is
show?
not the sandbox environment that I'm working on.
So
So
I'm not asking about sandbox. You
yeah,
have prepared the real time example for the student in the class to prepare the
exactly.
pipeline by using
Yeah.
any ML tools or any types of example.
Correct. So I believe, are you talking about the data here? Real-time machine learning data that we use?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, good question. So yes, we will be working on publicly available real-time data that's outside in the market. But again, let me just clarify one thing. Okay, so if I'm not wrong, if I'm not pronouncing your name wrongly, Dinender
Dinendra,
Kumar.
Dinendra.
Dinender Kumar. Okay, perfect. So let's try to understand what is MLOps is all about. So MLOps is all about building, let's say, automation to deliver any kind of AI models to the production. What do you mean by any? See, consider that you might
This
be
type
working
of
on an
thing,
organization.
sir, but this type of things already doing in DevOps. Automatic to multiple automatic tool is available in the DevOps.
Sorry, can you come again? So your question didn't.
This type of
uh,
automatic tool is already available in the DevOps without machine learning.
so you mean you're saying without using machine learning, you can able to deliver the machine learning models to the
Yes,
production
I
by
want to
using.
know a real-time example you have used for the student. How can we make a real-time example to MLOps? Create the pipeline
Okay. See,
by
that's what I'm trying to explain, Deener. Just give me some time. Let's say here I'm talking about, you're talking about data, but let's say here I'm talking about automation. So I'm talking about data doesn't matter here. So the question is, let's say I'm going to teach you this particular architecture. So this is the real-time architecture I just showed you. We are talking about building an automation here. You can see this particular architecture here. But let's say the question is, you're worried about data. I can't help because tomorrow you're not going to work on one simple data. Machine learning use cases are endless. So you might be working on tabular data, right? It can be a data set of an abalone, right? That I showed you right now, which is again a real-time data. You might be working. So we will be having a use case where we'll be working on a real-time taxi data set, a New York City taxi data set, for an example. But MLOps is not depending on the data. If you're learning data science, data does matter. But the question is, let's say if we are learning this particular automation, but tomorrow you might be working in an organization where you want to deliver a large language model, computer vision model, classical machine learning model, classification, regression, clustering. So the question is, does this pipelines help me to deliver any kind of a machine learning model? Answer is yes. So that's what exactly that we will be learning here. Not about the data here. Data doesn't matter. But that doesn't mean that we don't work on real-time data. We do. I given some couple of examples already. So if you're asking me to show the data doesn't make sense for you. So for an example, if you're asking about real-time architecture, here we go. You can able to see the real-time architecture. So this particular, if I want to give a quick brief of this particular architecture, this architecture is a combination of GitHub Actions. GitHub Actions is not a sandbox environment. A lot of organizations does use it. And we will be using Amazon SageMaker. There are thousands of customers today, they use Amazon SageMaker to deliver the models. And there are other CI/CD tools that we are talking about, other AWS tools that we're talking about, like for an example, Event Bridge. So what is Event Bridge? Event Bridge is a tool that we use it for scheduling your model. There are thousands of customers, they use Event Bridge to deliver a model. So the question is, this pipeline, this architecture can fit in to deliver any kind of a models to the production. So what we will be learning how to build such kind of automation. So whether it is a classical model, whether it is a clustering model, right? You can able to deliver. But if you say that, okay, I will just use DevOps tools itself to deliver a model, hardly it's not possible for what we're talking about, the level 4 architecture project. But the question is, then where are you going to train the machine learning models? So that's how it's going to work. I believe you got my answer. If not, I would ask you to just wait for some time. We'll discuss in detail if you
Okay.
want to put questions in
Okay.
that
Thanks.
architecture.
Thanks for the explanation.
Good question. Thank you. Let's go to the
Sir,
next person.
I have one question like whenever we have registered for any course, so all the details will be emailed to us, right? With the means like you have told that recording sessions will be there, right? So how can we get those? Means details will be emailed to us or any kind of other?
Can you come
Can you
again, Shubhar? I didn't get you.
Miss, I'm saying that whenever if any person registered to the courses, so how the details will get? Miss, so will you get the details through the email or miss like you told the recording previous batch recording will
Okay,
be
okay.
there,
Yeah,
right?
I got it. So
So
access, right? Shubhar, you're asking, let's say once I am done with the program registration, the first thing is you'll be getting a registration confirmation with Razorpay. We use Razorpay, which is our official payment gateway partners. Let's say, let me just quickly walk you through the registration process as well. So this will be the landing page where you can go ahead and complete the registration. So you can just buy, one second, let me just. 1 second. 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 Let me Folks, meantime, go ahead and harvest more questions if you have. Let me just help you with that. Okay, so once you click register now button, so you can just go ahead and enter your name, email that you would like to proceed with. Okay, so then you'll be redirected to a page where you can go ahead and pick an actual plans that you do have. So whether you want to go with INR, whether you want to go with USD, you can just go ahead and select it. So let's say if you're looking for access to advanced plus plan upgradation, just simply you need to go ahead and register for advanced plan. So we are using Razorpay. So we are an official partners with Razorpay. We are verified partners. So that means yes. So Razorpay trusts us. And yeah, so you can see they get the badges. Okay, then you can go ahead and select any payment methods like EMI if you want to, net banking or UPI, etc. So what happens once you're done with registration, you'll be getting an email confirmation saying that your registration is done, and the payment receipt, the invoice will be also shared to you. So then what happens when it comes to the offer? Let's say if you're registering within the offer time, you will be getting the email from us saying that your offer has been, let's say you have registered for advance, you have been upgraded to advance plus plan. Then what? So you have registered for advance plus plan right now, you got access to advance plus plan, you get access to previous batch recordings. Yes, you will be getting a couple of emails again. Officially, as a trainer, it's my duty, I will be calling you and I will be instructing you how you can get started with the recordings. And obviously you'll be getting an access to our LMS portal. So I will be guiding you to the next steps. Yeah, that's how it's going to work, Shubha.
Okay, so the classes will start from September 13, right?
Absolutely, yes, Shubha. We'll be starting our sessions from September 13. Yep.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Great. Meantime, if you have any questions, go ahead, folks. Unmute your mic and we can talk. Meantime, I will go ahead and answer.
One question.
Sagar, yeah, go ahead.
See, this is all very good, very nicely laid out course. But for me, I have experience of 25 years of experience in IT.
Okay.
So, and I'm thinking of going into this, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I can, become something here. I cannot become a developer kind of a guy. I cannot become a one of those developers that you showed in those in the flow that you showed just.
Got it.
Yeah. Now I come from the mid management. Okay.
Got it.
Okay. And I come from the infrastructure background, like servers and database servers.
Got it.
Installing of servers and taking configurations and incident management and problem management kind of stuff, where only the only big organizations who have the capability to install have a ticketing tool like ServiceNow and all that.
Okay.
Now even if I do this course, nobody will accept me as an MLOps manager. Okay, I'm not even going to go in the developer group. I'll just say, okay, I'm aware where the flow is and I know where the problem is. At least I'll have a workflow in front of me. Even if the chart is there, I can say, okay, this is where the problem is. So I can estimate things, I can mitigate things, I can do risk management, I can do anything. Okay, now how will this course help me for somebody who has 25 years of experience in database and management? Now recent 7 8 10 years has been in management or team lead thing.
Okay.
No hands-on. I have hands-on experience. I've done programming. It's not that I've never done programming. I've done programming. Okay, so I can read a code, but then I cannot actually sit and debug a complex code. But I can understand. Okay, there where the problem is and all that. So where will this program help me if I want to change to my transition from an kind of an ITL guy, PMP ITL guy to a manager to something who is a DevOps manager or an ML ops manager. Now, I've never seen an ML ops manager kind of a role. Okay. Somebody who's delivering the project. Okay. Who's front ending with the
No
client.
one calls as MLOps manager, right? But we used to call in different names, right? So we call it as MLOps architect, MLOps specialist kind of roles are there. So understanding understanding your journey so far. So we had the same kind of a person. So right now she is also working in the AI background. So what we recommended, so considering that you have already amount of more experiences here, and considering that you're already coming from the infrastructure background, so the most the optimal opportunity here for you would be an architect level of position. So let's say, for an example, enterprises architect. So that means in terms of an infrastructure, I mean, and let's say what we're talking about, AI architect, enterprises AI architect. But one is enterprises AI, enterprises architect in terms of let's say AI industry. I'm talking about in terms of MLOps. See, consider that. So in that particular position that I'm talking about, so you actually get to decide, right? So which cloud that we're going to use, considering that I'm talking in the side of, let's say you have an experience in terms of an infrastructure. So you get to decide, the infrastructure. So when I mean, just imagine, let's say a specific architecture that we are talking about. So let's say it can be this, or let's say this are any other architecture that we'll be working throughout this cloud platform. So you're actually going to draft a plan saying that what works for your organizations, whether we're going to use AWS, what tools that we're going to use. I mean, considering that your expertise, you have it in the infrastructure, right? So basically what works for you is obviously what I'm talking about, applying an architect level of positions, specialist lighter positions, and let's say we're talking about enterprises architect, enterprises AI architect kind of a positions would definitely work for you. Yeah.
Okay.
Considering
Okay.
that, because you have some you need to demonstrate that you have some experience prior, right? So that's where
Correct.
you have your experience in terms of infrastructure management. So that adds more value when it comes to MLOps, because when we're talking about MLOps engineers, not everyone, there are organizations who expect you to manage the infrastructure as well. So launching, provisioning the servers, managing the scalability of that servers, auto scaling, etc. Right? So those kind of a stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I got it. Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Thank you so
Uh,
much, Saga.
Sharat,
Yeah, go ahead. I mean, who is talking?
I'm Narendra. Yeah.
Narendra, go
Like,
ahead, please.
if I complete this program, can I work on multi-cloud environment? Like as you said, like you showed one architecture diagram. That
Correct.
you like showing like AWS SageMaker and like Event Bridge and all
Correct.
these things.
Correct.
If I complete, can I work on the multi-cloud environment? Like if I get a role, so MLOps role. So
Okay.
can I work on multi-cloud environment?
See, working on multi-cloud environment, the first question is, will you be having a skills to learn from this program? 100% yes, Narendra. Because we
Okay.
will be working on multiple clouds, as I mentioned in the curriculum. Okay, there's no doubt about it. In our program, you will be working on every cloud. I will be asking
Okay.
you to create 3 different cloud accounts. So you will be
Okay.
creating AWS or Azure GCP free trial accounts. Okay. So
Okay.
definitely I will make sure that you will complete the project. That's not a problem about it. But when you're
Okay.
working in your organization, that I cannot predict, right? Because what kind of a project
Yeah.
they might allocate you, what kind of a cloud platform they might ask you. But
Yeah.
definitely you'll be having a sufficient skills to get started with multiple clouds. So because if you
Yeah.
see the way the curriculum is structured accordingly, so every cloud platform will be, let's say when we are getting started with module number 9, we will be getting started with this end-to-end MLOps pipeline on all the 3 cloud platforms parallelly, one by one. So you'll be understanding the differences between what AWS offers, what Azure offers, what GCP offers, right?
Okay.
So that would be the more USP of our program. So what I'm talking about. Yeah,
Okay.
Narendra, let me know if you have any other questions. Let me answer that.
Yeah. Like, is there any like specific cloud we like covered more like AWS or hello?
Sorry, can you come again? What you
Yeah.
said?
Can you like cover specific one cloud more like more percentage like AWS? Actually, currently I'm working on AWS cloud
Okay,
environment.
got it, got it,
That's
got it.
yeah, yeah.
You're asking, do you will I be? I mean, you're asking to me to be biased on one cloud? So
No,
okay, I got it.
no,
Are you asking me to be biased or not?
no, not like that. Like just I'm asking.
Okay,
Uh,
see, like here, consider that here we will be covering all the cloud platforms equally. There's no doubt about it. But
okay,
the end of the day, let's say for a reason we call it as MLOps specialization program. So because we do have because this program is directly targeting the people who want to work in specialist kind of a roles as well. See, after
okay,
completing the program, so obviously, if you want to just work as an MLOps engineer, definitely you can get started. But this program would be more sufficient for getting started with a specialist kind of a roles as well, architect kind of roles as well. You'll see
okay,
the overall, the broader view of this program. You'll be having a good idea let's say if you want to implement any end-to-end MLOps pipeline on top of AWS or Azure GCP, you know which tool to pick, which tool you don't want to pick, and which monitoring tool you can pick, which CI/CD pipelines you can pick. So we'll be working collaboratively in all the cloud platforms. Equally, yes, we would be trying to cover all the cloud platforms here. But definitely another thing is you have, as a trainer, you have my direct connection, and we're debugging sessions where we can discuss more. So few people, they ask, okay, they ask voluntarily, okay, I will be going ahead and getting started with this cloud. Can you give me more examples, more sample codes or etc. that you can get started? We have assignments as well. So in that way, you can request for more than what we have here. Definitely, we can able to help you in that
Okay.
as well.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Narendra. Uh, thank you. Okay, so let me know, folks. I'm going to spare a few more time. Let me just see if I didn't answer. Let me see if I have Divya still in the call. So Divya, please go ahead if you have any further questions. Now it's time. So let me just go ahead and answer that. If
Hello.
Divya is still
May I ask
in
you a
the
question?
yeah. So
Hello.
Adirash. So yeah, Adirash, go ahead. Yeah.
Others.
Others, sorry. I'm
Yeah, myself
apologizing.
others.
Yeah, Adarsh, please
Yeah,
go ahead.
currently I'm working as a software engineer. I'm working on PHP right now. So I have around
Okay.
5 years of experience. So if I take this course, so how it will help in my career? So
Okay,
basically,
so can you
I
just
want
come
to see.
again? I lost your experience, that what your role, what you said. Can you just come again?
I'm saying I'm working as a software engineer on PHP right now.
Okay, you're a
So I have
software
five
engineer.
years
Okay.
of experience. Yeah, yeah. So taking this course, how it can help in my career?
See, the one is, let's say we are talking about transformation. So you're a software engineer that you're talking about. So, but let's say for
Right.
an example, if you have an interest to make your career into AI, right?
Yeah.
So this could be the perfect program. So that means the various different positions you can expect to get started. One is you can get started with MLOps engineer. So let's
Mm.
say I'm looking into the future here, not just a short-time goal just to get into MLOps engineer. So let's say you can get started with MLOps engineer as a job role. Then you can get started as, let's say, MLOps lead, architect, specialist kind of a roles, and later on you can also get into what we're talking about, generative AI, etc. That can be the further other things that you can able to get started, others.
So while taking the course, I was not able to see any low cost EMI option.
Okay, see, we don't, I mean, so no cost EMI is an offer. So in case if we don't have no cost EMI, so in case if you're looking for that, I would recommend you to DM us. I will see, because we don't have any other offers. We do have only this free upgradation offers that we are running. So definitely I will, if you're not looking for this free upgradation offer, my team can able to give an alternative offer for you. Maybe if you're interested in no cost EMI, I would ask you to DM with the number that I already shared in a chat window. You can just reach out to me in either one of this number, others. Let me help you. Okay. Okay. So I have one question. The person who is waiting for in a chat window. The name of the person, it just says Yen, but I'm just going to answer that particular questions. Sorry, folks. There's a lot of people's here, you know that. So I'm just trying to manage and answer all the questions. But in case if I didn't answer any question, please feel to call me to the number that I shared. Let's spend more time. Okay, so perfect. So here is the first question the person is asking. All the topics given in the curriculum will be covered in live sessions. Yes. So let's say here, let me just repeat again. There are 15 modules here in our program. So apart from 15 modules, the 14 modules will be covered in live sessions. So module number 15 is a self-paced videos. So module number 15 won't be covered in a live session. Again, the topics in a module number 15 will be again based on the topics that we have already covered in module number 14, because you can see here we'll be again getting started with Dockers, we'll be using MLflow, but the new topic will be Jenkins. So that's the answer for that. How often you take the batches? Let's say we'll be having the batches. Let's say our batch would be for 3 months. Once in every 3 months, we would be having new batches actually. So, and again, how do I do the payment now? Let's say, obviously, let's say you can look for various different payment option. If you want to do that payment split, go for EMI. We do support EMI on all the major credit and debit cards that we do have. So how long I can able to access the recordings? So you can access the recordings for the next 1 year. And again, so let's say why we give only for access 1 year, why not lifetime? So for an example, if you ask, so you don't, we don't know whether we exist in lifetime, whether cloud exists in lifetime. I'm just kidding. But let's say when we are talking about let's say AI industry or any cloud is transforming pretty much, probably you don't need an access to the lifelong, but we give access to the 1 year. Because why? Because let's say in order to make sure that you learn faster and you get into the market to the faster. But what happens if I need access to the recordings after 1 year? Yes, we will extend it with a good reason. If you have, definitely we extend it. No additional payment. You just get an access to the recordings of your batch again. But the restriction is making sure that you get into the market faster, right? Because you know that you might have signed up for tens and 20s of courses, and obviously you can get everything in a Udemy, right? So what, as Divya is talking, everything is available in online, right? So obviously why people are taking for this program, someone who can able to give a personal case, someone who have where you can ask a million questions, right? And someone who can able to get the reality of what's happening in industry and dump in front of you, right? So that, and again, the process of quick to the market, what I have seen, right? So definitely please do a lot of research outside in the market. Definitely what I have seen, people have done a lot of research, and definitely they came to our program. They said, okay, you have a best curriculum outside in the market, right? So each and every person has more needs, and here I'm looking for someone where I can able to help you, similar to how I did helped other people's to make their career into AI, right? So listen to them, as simple as that. So I have one more question. So then comes, I'm interested to enroll. I just need to know more about the trainer. So this is Sharath. I will be the trainer for this program. I did also explained about my company. And again, so I used to take care anything related to AI ML in this particular organization. So I'll be a trainer. I will be a point of contact throughout this program. So do we have week-wise topics? No, we don't have sessions on weekdays. We do have sessions only on weekends. On weekdays, we do have debugging sessions basically. So we don't have any other discounts. This discounts will be valid till the next Monday, the free upgradation offers that I'm talking about. Yeah, thank you so much. Anyone else has a question, please go ahead and let me know. One more person whose name is Rohit is saying, is it mandate to config script setup files important to learn bash Linux commands? Okay, so let's say here, let's say when we're talking about Linux commands, yes. So we will be getting, I mean, using the very basic commands. You don't need to have any expertise on Linux here. And again, bash is something similar to any programming language. It's not even a programming language, it's just a simple conditions. So that would be more basics would be sufficient, Rohit. So when it comes to programming, hardly, like if you have any access to, if you know any programming basics, and you can get, if you don't have much, you can get an access to a Python tutorials, would definitely help you to refresh. And let me know if you have any other questions. So Rohit Triwari did ask, do we need to have prerequisites of Python programming? I did explain that already. So yes, folks who are going to complete our program, you'll be getting the course completion certificates from us. Yes.
Hello. Hello, sir.
Manoj. Yeah, Manoj, go ahead.
Yes, sir. So we will be doing on 3 different cloud services, right, sir? Platforms.
Yeah,
So with the free tier these accounts, will it be possible using those services in those cloud providers which are giving? So
got it.
we can
I got your
complete
question,
the.
Manoj. Let's say yes, every cloud platform they would be providing the free trail. Azure and GCP they provides the credits for us to get started. So most of the time, yes, we will be trying to cover everything within the free trail itself. And again, sometimes what happens, let's say we might forget to delete the resources. And again, in case, let's say if you're having any bills, the first thing what we say, don't pay the bills. And again, there are tricks that we can actually ask a cloud platform. We can request them to waive these bills off. That's a worst case scenario, but most of the time we would be trying to cover within the free trial itself, Manoj.
Oh, thanks, sir.
You're welcome. So Sweta Verma Bhaskar, let me know if you have any questions. If we have still Sweta Verma Bhaskar, so let me just help you with that. Okay, Swami is asking a question. So, sir, I have some clarification on career gap. So, can we discuss personally? Yes, please. I would recommend you to call me back in this phone number. So, let me just help you with that. So, thank you so much. I have shared the registration links again, folks. Go ahead and click on and proceed with the registration. And so you can click on the second link where you can go ahead and download the curriculum, and third link you can go ahead and download the free ebooks. Yeah. Okay, saying that, perfect. It's time. I believe I answered all the questions so far. I had it in a chat as.
one minute. I have a question.
Sampath, go ahead. Yep.
Hey, sir. Sure. I just went through the whole the curriculum what you were trying to show, and
Yeah.
the architecture what I've seen is like from 20,000 feet. There are a lot of services which you've been at least it was kind of circulating or it's more focused towards the AWS. I've seen some of the organizations wherein like they have multi-cloud instance. I've seen the organizations where I worked. Some of the businesses they are quite well acquainted with data, so they use GCP and some people in Azure and others in AWS. Is it possible
Correct.
these pipelines can be created in a way wherein the code base can be used somewhere in the AWS, then few of the services of Azure and few of the services like say monitoring and other stuff in GCP. Is it that possibility is there?
So you're asking a question like, correct me if you're wrong. Let's say, is that possible that I can connect multiple clouds like AWS, Azure, or something like that?
Yeah, for a whole one automation, yes.
Yeah, you can. Let's say for an example, I have seen organizations, they use Azure DevOps. That's where their CI/CD pipelines would be running, but they would be deploying their models on AWS.
Exactly.
So yeah, so those possibilities are possible. So because let's say it's all about how you need to make a secure connection between Azure DevOps and the cloud platforms. So we talk about, let's say, making a connection to, let's say, using Azure ARM templates or different ways you can able to make a connection. And still you can use third-party DevOps tools. Let's say in the architecture that I've also shared, you can see I will be using a third-party DevOps tools. Like we will be using GitHub Actions, and we'll be making a connection between GitHub Actions and AWS. So we use authentication techniques like OpenID Connect. So there are different methods where you can securely make a connection between the third-party platforms. Yes, it is possible. You can do that. And again, when you're talking about the architecture, yeah, I like the command that you made, like at 20 feet. So because obviously on a day one, we won't be getting started with this architecture. The module number 9 is where we have this architecture. So let's say we will be starting slowly understanding each and every tools, combining multiple architectures, and then finally we'll be going ahead and talking about this level 4. Level 4 is the highest level of automation that you can able to build today. Obviously, in this level 4 architecture project, you won't be alone working there. You won't be alone building this architecture. There will be senior folks in MLOps. You'll be working with data scientists, etc. But yes, as when you're trying to learn that, we need to have a broader view of everything, which we want to deliver that. Yes, we have similar architectures for Azure as well. I'm not showing everything as of right now. So we do have similar architecture for Azure, similar for GCP and other open source tools as well. Okay, perfect. Let me know. I'm going to spare 2 more minutes if anyone else has a question. Okay, perfect, folks. Saying that, it's time to sign out. Thank you so much. I believe you enjoyed the program. I believe you enjoyed what is MLOps is about. And yeah, perfect. So those who are really interested to make your career into AI, so if you have more questions, million questions, call me, let's talk, and let's see what's really works out for you. And so then you can go ahead and sign up for a program. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. And yep, so we'll connect back in our live sessions again. Thank you so much, folks. Yeah, bye.